to East Hampton Town Board. We are live.
Thank you, LTV. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the East Hampton Town Board work session of Tuesday, July 7th, 2026. Michael, if you could please read the roll call.
Councilmember Flight.
Present.
Deputy Supervisor Lease.
Present.
Councilmember Rogers.
Present.
Councilmember Calder-Piedmont.
Present.
Supervisor Burke-Gonzalez.
Present. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So this morning, we start our meeting with public portion. We ask folks to kindly keep their comments to 3 minutes. And then we have 6 topics on for today. We're going to be doing bids with Jeannie Carrozza. Tina Lagaren and Eddie Schnell are going to take us through emergency communications update and SECRA. Then Rich Normoyle will be giving us a building department operations update. That'll be followed by a presentation from Jake Turner and Charlie Collins on amending Chapter 102-8, issuance of building permit, and then Jake will take us through an proposed amendment for Chapter 102-14, certificate of occupancy, and then Councilmember Flight will take us through a presentation on the Amagansett street lighting update. That'll be followed by liaison reports and then resolutions. So we have one person signed up to speak. Welcome, Jack.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Good morning, Jack Forst.
Just
I'm here
move
in
the mic
reference.
so that that's
I'm
great.
here in reference to the proposal to change the 15-day timing on building permits to be issued, and I think to leave it so open-ended where you're talking about a reasonable period of time is not correct. It needs to be a specific time, just like it was. If 30 days is correct, then 30 days it should be. But just to leave it open-ended, I think is just wrong, and it doesn't make anybody accountable for anything. And I think that's what we're looking for, is to try to get things to move more swiftly to help our industry, which has greatly suffered for the last year and a half. So that's the only thing I really have to say. I would just like to see some time limit on it so that we have something that we can tie into and just someone making up a time. So that's my thoughts. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Jack. Mike?
Is this the right time to speak on
Yeah.
behalf of that, or is it better to wait?
No, this is the time. This is the public portion.
Hi there. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Michael Forst. I'm speaking on behalf of Long Island Builders Institute, the East End chapter, as the chairman. We are not in favor of the code change for the 15-day rule. We believe that East Hampton can become a leader in the industry by keeping this 15-day rule. Within reasonable time is too broad. With your new relationship with companies like Greenlight as an AI plan reviewer, who, as I'm told, is turning things around in 10 days, and as they do more, it'll be less. I think the town has an opportunity to show that they are dedicated to the building community and the residents for an efficient and predictable turnaround on their review and approval process, which we are long overdue for. You know, it would be my hope that you guys would embrace this and stick with the 15-day, which I think is reasonable, to say if it's, approved or not. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's processed. Our members look forward to being part of the conversation and in solutions that we face. I guess I'll also comment on, sorry, just give me a sec.
Sure.
The structure of the bill, we're pleased to hear that the building department timeline is being caught up, hopefully by 100% by the year end. We are also pleased with the new hires and focus on the structure of the building department. With that said, our membership would still like to see the support for legislation on professional certification, as well as keeping subcontractors like Greenlight for plan review as an AI company. This will ensure a consistent and predictable permit process now and in the future. As an employer on the East End, we know that there's issues with, keeping and retaining employees. I'm hoping that the building department retains this great staff that they have accumulated. I don't think that having people assist with plan review changes that. I think that just allows the building department to do a better job, whether it's field inspections or processing other types of things that move through there. So again, we're looking for consistency and predictability. And I just wanted to comment on the building department also. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. There's nobody else in the room that could possibly comment. The rest is town staff and the press. So we'll go to the phones. Jason, is there anyone on the line?
Yes, I got one caller, and caller 3240, you're on the air. Can you hear me? Hello, caller 3240. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Hey,
this is
there
Mark
you are.
Clayjon. Am I live there? Should I make my
You
comment?
are live, my friend. Go for it.
Hi, yes, this is Mark Clayjon. I'm a builder in East Hampton. I've resided here my whole life, or most of my life, and been building homes out here. And I wanted to comment on the 15-day requirements to issue a building permit and support the comments made by the prior two gentlemen. I think it's very important to have an actual standard, an actual time frame. It makes us able to plan and staff and prepare to execute projects as opposed to an open timeline, which makes it very hard to do that. So I would support us keeping that in the town, and for the town to be a leader and having something set like that, I think would be very beneficial. In terms of the building department, also want to applaud the town for the progress that's being made, and hope that that continues so we can get back on track and get the town back to doing what it's, been doing in the past, which is allowing people to plan projects and execute them in a timely manner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Jason, is there anyone else on the line?
We have no other callers on the line.
All right, so we're going to move on to topics, and I've just been informed that Jeannie Carosa does not have bids for us today, so we're going to move on to emergency communications update in SECRA with Tina and Eddie. I guess, Eddie, you're going to kick us off. Welcome, Eddie.
Yeah, hi, good morning. Jump right to the next slide. All right, so it's been a while since in public kind of given an update. So it was kind of the million-mile overhead view. All 8 of the sites are currently operational and providing coverage. There are some open punch list items for the project, but it's mostly cleanup and repair type stuff, nothing major. All the battery backup systems are working, all of the generators are working, all the primary power is in, so it's substantially complete at this point. The last piece is getting redundant microwave backhaul between the Gator site and Camp Blue Bay. Both of those, given their location, topography, and the heights of the towers, have been troublesome to find a direct path to any other sites or to each other. We'd additionally identified Shelter Island as an option. We were under the impression that they owned their tower. Turns out they don't. So we went back to the planning board and found the tower in Greenport. It's owned by the Village of Greenport. We've had some initial structural analysis done of it. It can handle our equipment, and it does need some work. If you want to jump to the next slide. All right, so that's a kind of oblique picture of the actual tower. It's a 370-foot guide self-support tower. When you're coming in the ferry to Greenport, it's the one that you're looking at directly ahead. It completes a secondary ring topology for the backhaul system. So any one link in the first ring can fail, and any one link in the second link can fail. Another nice thing with Greenport is that Southold Town has their backhaul system tied in through there for the police department. They have stuff on Shelter Island. And Southampton Town has stuff on Shelter Island, so we can actually ride through them to get back to Noyak, which gives us another layer of protection should anything fail. It's not a full RF site like the one here where we're actually providing coverage to radio users from the site. It's just the backhaul. So it's a much smaller footprint than the other sites. It's a cabinet that's about double the size of this podium instead of a 12 by 24 foot building. So it's, much smaller scale, much less equipment, and less to maintain. But basically the next steps to move forward, because we are changing the physical location and what's being installed, the secret obviously has to be updated to reflect that before we can go in and start actually doing work on it. So we are going to have to go out to bid for Greenport to do some tower reinforcement modifications. The tower was never designed to handle microwave point-to-point equipment. So right now, the guy wires is just 3 guy wires that come down. And when it gets windy, the tower can actually twist this way. And it's designed to do that. It's supposed to do that. But that doesn't work too well when you're sending a cone of radio signal across to the other side. So we have to do add what's called torque arms with 2 guy wires, which prevents that twisting from happening. So there is some, you could call it remediation, you could call it an upgrade. And the intention there, we'd be paying for that because we're making it work for us. The way we think that'll work out is we won't actually have to pay anything in a lease. So that's kind of the trade.
Bartering.
So once we have the secret done, we can hammer out a lease with the Village of Greenport and or lease or license, however the attorneys want to figure that out, and really get going on it and get it done.
Great.
So Ed, I think you said, all the existing sites have working generators at this point. Will Greenport require a new generator?
No, so Greenport, there's an existing generator at the site used by, it's owned by the Village of Greenport. It's used by Greenport Fire Department, Town of Southold, and a few other agencies that are in that shelter. There's no room in that shelter, so we're putting a separate cabinet outside, but we're actually taking power off of that shelter, so we're using their generator. And it's good because then I don't have to go up there to refuel it, so.
And for individuals that might not have been listening as long as this project's been going on or not knowing what the Gator site is, can you just explain what the Gator site is and why the point-to-point is important for visual lines of acuity?
Yeah, so Gator site is on the hill east of East Lake Drive. It was former Air Force ground air transmit receive site to send targeting data to aircraft, and the county owns it. So the county was able to get 2 85-foot towers built there, removing 2 of the existing 88-foot wooden poles, which there's still a number of up there. It is a great site for RF because it's the second highest point, I believe, in Montauk, behind the landfill. The RF coverage is great, but because the towers are so short in comparison, getting RF to, or getting the microwave to anywhere, which requires a direct line of sight, and not only direct as a single line, there's also a thing called a Fresnel zone. There's a ratio of a curve underneath that you can't have any trees or anything in. So right now we have a single connection going back to the tower at the Montauk dump, which we call Montauk. But basically right now, if the Montauk tower were to have any type of large failure, not only do you lose Montauk, you also lose Gator because it's the only way you can connect back to the network. So this would let Gator keep operating even if Montauk's not. And even though they're separate sites, they do have some levels of overlapping coverage. So if you lose a site, you have less of an issue.
Also with the Montauk dump, when we did that tower there initially, as you'll see in the slide deck here, in the secret determination, it was initially supposed to be a shorter. We didn't need, the base is for a 300-foot tower.
Yeah.
And we did that just in case if trees kept growing on there, because we were already bonding it out, putting the money forward, just in case we needed to extend that height to get over tree growth in the future.
Yeah. So the initial design height was 300 feet. That was to clear the trees for the microwave link coming back to here at Town Hall at Panago. When we put the application into the FAA, They limited us to 194 feet AGL above ground level. So we kind of had to deal with that. So there's 180 foot of tower there now, and then the antennas above the top stick up to meet the 194. We ended up having to increase the height of this tower by 20 feet, and the Fresnel zone is barely skimming the tops of the trees. And the dishes on both sides are at the top. So in the future, you know, when I say skimming the tops of the trees, that is designed to, with 20 years of tree growth. So we're good for some time. But when we went to build it, it's like, well, you know, let's live to fight the FAA another day. We took the 300
For
foot.
that around here a lot.
Yeah, let's take the 300 foot tower. We drew a red line through the drawings and say, give me the bottom 180 feet. So it's literally just cutting a purchase order to order the rest of the tower and having it manufactured, and it'll bolt right on. We don't have to reinforce or do anything with the foundations. It's designed for day one to go that high.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Nice. Turn it over to Tina to talk about the.
Anyone else have questions for Eddie? Okay, yeah.
Turn it over to Tina
All
to
right,
talk about.
Tina,
the
Teg, you're it.
Thank you. Greetings, town board members. Tina Lager, I'm from the planning department. I'm here to talk about updating the SECRA for the emergency services communication upgrade projects. These were analyzed pursuant to SECRA in the past. A negative declaration was issued in October 2018 and updated again in January 2022, completing the SECRA process for the project as it existed at that time. However, as Eddie is describing, over time, the project has evolved and there are changes proposed. And when that happens, we have to consider the potential for environmental impacts. SECRA allows negative declarations to be amended. I put the citation on the slide, and I'll just summarize. At any time prior to its decision to undertake an action, a lead agency may amend a negative declaration when substantive changes are proposed for the project. So what we're looking at is, are there changes that would require an environmental impact statement? And, you know, what's the assessment of the environmental impacts of the changes being proposed? So I did prepare an amended negative declaration, which was in the package that was provided to the board. And I'll just summarize what the analysis of that includes. When I started working on this with Eddie, I did review the SECRA work in detail that had been conducted at several times in history. And the amended negative declaration summarizes the changes at each of the locations that has happened as the program has evolved. The first update that's happening right now is what you folks were just talking about, the change at 365 Montauk Highway, which is that large tower that was approved as a 300-foot tower in 2018 and 2022, and then subsequently built at the 194 height. The 300-foot tower, as Eddie's describing, is thought in the long term to be appropriate for that location. And so the recommendation is that the original assessments conducted for that, we would just affirm them now, right? So when that was originally proposed, an analysis was conducted, the negative declaration did disclose that the view of the tower at 300-foot height would be prominent, right? It is going to be taller, much more so than anything in the location, but it also reviewed alternative locations and found that they wouldn't be feasible or practical or really alleviate those impacts. So while that was the case, there is shielding provided by the forested areas around that tower, as well as other existing towers in the vicinity, which does at least make the 300-foot a little bit more contextual than it would be in other places. And so considering this, that's not a new potential significant adverse impact, and the negative declaration is still appropriate. Regarding the new proposed work at 104 Washington Avenue in Greenport, here Eddie has found an opportunity to co-locate on an existing 370-foot tower. The site is located in a residential neighborhood, and it is visible from the residential streets and homes surrounding the location. It is, however, set back quite a distance from those, helping to minimize its visual prominence. The town adding antennas and reinforcing the existing tower will not drastically change its appearance. And co-locating on an existing facility is obviously a smaller impact than creating a brand new one adjacent or another location. The equipment cabinet is located at the ground level and is being located in an existing equipment compound, reducing the need for new clearing and further disturbance from those facilities. And as you mentioned, there is an emergency generator there, alleviating the need to construct a new one with the resulting noise and emissions. At this location as well, no new groundwater, surface water, plant and animal impacts. The amount of disturbance is minimal. It's in an already cleared area. There are no threatened and endangered species. There's no critical environmental areas. And for all these facilities, they operate unmanned except for regular maintenance visits. There's no traffic and disturbance associated with them once they're up and running. Therefore, considering the scope and magnitude of the changes at the setting, the environmental setting that they're occurring within and the assessments conducted, we recommend that the amended negative declaration is appropriate. Thank you. If there's any questions.
Questions for Tina?
No.
So we can get this resolution on for next week.
Yes,
All right, beautiful.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have Rich Normoyle, our Chief Building Inspector, to give a presentation on building department operations. Welcome,
everyone.
Rich.
Today, I'd like to offer the board an update on the building department operations for July of 2026. First slide. Staffing expansion. We are currently recruiting for the positions of plans examiner and senior plans examiner in the building department. We've been interviewing candidates in the past few weeks and hope to have those positions filled shortly. Additionally, we're canvassing the Suffolk County Civil Service list for principal building inspector, and we'll have the results of that canvass later this week. We currently have a full-time staff of 16 positions, 13 of which are local East Hampton residents, which promotes longevity in these positions. So we're excited about that.
And if I could just jump in here. So in the past, we've had a chief building inspector or a principal building inspector. And everybody knows a few months ago, Becky and I and Vince Toomey, our labor counsel, sat down with the folks at Civil Service to say, you need to work with us. We need, more staffing here, even though, we have a year-round population of close to 30,000. We do the same number of building permits that a town like Babylon and Huntington do, and they've got 200,000
Yes.
year-round residents. So we've worked with Civil Service, they've worked with us, and we got an approval to have a principal building inspector under the chief building inspector, which was really great news. So
Yes,
that you
thank
have
you.
some, additional senior staff to help guide the department.
Yes. Next slide. And shown here is an example of the previous building department staff organizational chart from 2025. As you can see, at that time, there were 9 full-time positions with 4 building inspectors handling all of the duties associated with building permit issuance, including taking in all the applications, plan review, permit descriptions, fee assessments, permit issuance, performing inspections, keeping inspection logs, and review of final paperwork for COs. Please go to the next slide. This is the current staff organization. In 2026, we continue to grow and expand our staff as we create new roles for employees to better distribute the responsibilities of permit issuance and reduce the backlog and wait times. As previously stated, we currently have 16 of these 19 approved positions filled in the office. This expansion of staffing and reorganization of job duties allows us to have plans being reviewed and permits issued 8 hours a day instead of the short amount of time the building inspectors were able to dedicate to it previously.
We could just, what we're showing here, right, is we've got the opening for the principal building inspector.
Yes.
And the way you've got it structured is that you're going to have the principal building inspector and then Allison McDougall, who just got promoted last Thursday to associate administrator.
Yes.
So running,
She will essentially be in charge of all the administration staffing And principal will be second in command, handling plans examiners and building inspectors.
Right, and then we've brought on, while we were looking for you, before we hired you, we had Rich Vacchio come in, who has 30-plus years of experience to manage the department. And then once you came on, we kept Rich on because you're manning the office, so to speak, and he is out with building inspectors and, training them on how to manage a job site.
Yes, Rich has been here as training the new inspectors in the field and teaching them how to inspect properly, how to handle themselves, what they're looking for in the field. He has many years of experience as a senior building inspector.
So Rich, how long is Rich Vacchio's contract for at this point? How long are we keeping him?
Well, his monetary amount is dictated by the amount of hours he puts in daily and how many days a week he works. I believe he was at 35,000 for the year, and depending on whether he works a day a week or 2 days a week and what the needs are here, we've been trying to keep him to 1 or 2 days a week so we can have him throughout the summer.
Okay.
Right, and then, it'll come up during budget discussions whether we, need to bring him back in 2027.
We didn't want to use him 5 days a week and have him only last 2 months here,
Right.
so. On the next slide, we have coordination. The new ADU program, the building department is actively working with the Office of Housing and Community Development to support implementation of the town's new accessory dwelling unit program. We also continue to have conversations with zoning, planning, the ARB, and the fire marshal's office to discuss ways to improve and streamline our processes.
So Rich, just quickly on that one while we've got you here. We just got an email this morning from the housing department that some of the requests for the ADU building permit have been told that they require an ADU permit prior to getting the building department permit. That's not my understanding. Can you clarify on that one?
Why don't we?
I would really need to know specifically which ones we were talking about because they're all different classifications. I mean, I would need some more specifics to be able to comment on it.
But typically speaking, just a basic ADU shouldn't require an ADU permit to get the building permit.
Well, were we talking about an ADU or were we talking about the grant?
An ADU.
To get the grant money from community development, we've been discussing how that process is going, what it's going to look like. We don't want to release grant money to people to have them develop a plan and then come to building and find out you can't build that. So it's a complicated process. An ADU can be in a detached structure or it can be located in the dwelling. So there are a lot of little caveats here as to how this is going to work properly. Who's going to review those ADUs before someone goes out and develops a plan? And when is that grant money going to be released? There's a lot of things to figure out with this.
So it sounds like there still needs to be some more internal
There is, and
discussion
we-
between the building department and the housing office.
We've been having those conversations. Like I said, we certainly don't want to release grant money for affordable dwelling units or accessory dwelling units. Have someone take that money, go to an architect, develop a plan, and then come to us and find out that it's something they're not allowed to build, because of a zoning requirement. So we're trying to figure out, but yet how do we review it without them submitting a building department application first? They can't just bring us a plan to have us review it with no application submitted to the building department. So it's a complicated issue.
Chicken or egg, yeah.
There's a kind of a catch-22 here, and we need to figure out how to address it. Building permit backlog status. Historically, the building department has typically had a 10 to 12-week turnaround time for BPs. As of today, we are currently reviewing applications submitted at the end of January and early February, which puts us approximately 16 to 20 weeks behind. We continue to work towards our goal of 6 to 8 weeks for issuance. Estimated timeline on the catch-up. At the time of the last building department update, we anticipated a timeline of spring 2027 to clear the backlog. We have made significant progress and have revised our estimate to clear the backlog by the end of this year, 5 months ahead of our previous estimate. We fully expect to meet our target wait times on permit issuance by January 1st of this year. Next slide, fully caught up. As of this month, the building department has completely caught up on solar applications. We've completely caught up on rental registry applications, and we've caught up on research requests, which average 400 to 500 monthly in our building department. This is largely in part to the reorganization of the application process in the OpenGov portal, which now allows us to quickly identify smaller permits and issue them quickly. So that process is paying benefits right now for revising OpenGov. It really is allowing us to identify the easier permits to deal with quickly and get them out the door.
Rich, would you just please go into research requests? Because I don't think everyone understands that function of the building department. We talk about inspections, permits, COs and stuff, but we really don't talk about the volume of research requests and what that's for.
So the building department we have a research assistant who processes all the research requests from title companies, builders, applicants, anybody who wants to know what's legal on a property, what the COs are, any aspect of research on the building department records. And we typically process between 400 and 500 of those requests a month. And we were significantly behind on them. We were 2 to 3 months behind on those requests. And we are caught up to date now on those.
And sorry, on the org chart, where does that position fall?
Sorry?
When I'm looking at the org chart you gave earlier, which position is that does that?
Shu does that. She's one of the receptionists.
Receptionist.
Great.
Thank you.
And right now, we're still using the outside architectural firms.
Yes, we're still using, right now, we have applications out with Greenlight, with Spaces, and with H2M. I'm still working with CHA. I need to give them a call and get them up to date also to get some applications out to them, but we probably have between all of them, probably 60, 70 applications out with them right now, waiting on returns to update the portals with. But we are into February now, which is great news. You know, we are really making a lot of headway over there. The new positions that we hired, building inspectors and plans examiners, are really paying benefits now because they've been trained, they know how to do their job, and instead of spending time with them, teaching them, they are giving us output every day now. We're issuing permits and updating COs on a daily basis. I see the volume increasing in the office every day.
And the new layout, the new office with the separation also of some clerical staff so that they can concentrate?
Yes, moving
How is that working for you?
That's working great as well. We've moved the administrative staff across the hall to get them out of the line of fire, so to say, so they can actually spend their time typing and processing COs and permits instead of answering phones and helping at the front desk, which was constantly pulling them off task and not letting them get their jobs done during the day. Moving them across the hall to a location where they're not available to the public has really allowed them to get their work done. So.
And has the fact that you're starting to catch up, the pace is accelerating, have the number of phone calls coming in declined at all, or you're still getting the same volume of phone calls?
I would say they have somewhat declined. I would have to look at the numbers on the log to give you a concrete number, because I don't know it off the top of my head, but just being over there, it does seem like the number, like it's dropping.
And folks are getting trained to go to the portal for comments and
Yes.
whatnot.
Mhm.
From the people that come to me and I talk to about building permits, et cetera, it seems like they're really getting much more familiar with the information coming into the portal. They see it there and they absorb it. And the people, I just hear the music, yeah, I saw it on the portal, it's on the portal. And that's really good to see that folks are now finding out information in that way as well.
It's been a learning curve for everybody.
For everyone, yeah.
For the architects, the applicants, even the employees here, learning to properly use OpenGov and then training them on Bluebeam and how to use those applications in conjunction with the plans being submitted and reviewed. We're getting up to speed now. All of these things are starting to pay off now, and it's growing exponentially where instead of spending my days time training people, they're giving us output, so.
The investment's paying off.
Yes.
Richard, yeah, I mean, thank you for the work you've put in, because I will definitely say on behalf of all of us, you've gone above and beyond in like trying to get things straightened up there. So thank you for that. One of the big changes we've had between OpenGov and the paper applications was that concept of when someone brought a paper application to the desk, someone would review it, X is missing. With OpenGov, it comes in and stuff can be missing, and we don't necessarily know when, is that 16 to 20 week window we're currently operating under, is that kind of what the public should expect? That like, look, right now, if you've submitted an incomplete application, that's the kind of window you should be expecting to kind of get the feedback that you are missing that piece of information. There's not someone on hand currently reviewing applications, so they come in just doing the quick check.
No, it's going to be 16 to 20 weeks as of today before we even open the application and look at it to see if it's complete. That's a problem that we're still addressing. We're still trying to find solutions to how to prevent incomplete applications from being submitted. I think there's a lot of people that feel that they will submit an incomplete application either without Board of Health or without their energy code or even without a stamped set of plans, thinking that they're going to secure a line in the queue, a space in line. And it creates a problem. There's nobody checking these applications when they're submitted online now to reject them and say that you can't submit this without an approved Board of Health, or you can't submit this without a stamped set of plans. And I mean, some of the applications that we get are woefully incomplete. And it's definitely a problem that we need to address.
So to be clear, so OpenGov, as we know, you can't move to the next screen until you submit the document you need for that screen, but it's not AI, so you could submit anything as a placeholder.
What the problem is that OpenGov, when say you cannot proceed to the next step unless you submit a Board of Health approval. OpenGov doesn't know what PDF you're submitting. So if you submit a blank piece of paper that says to be submitted later on it into that portal, all OpenGov sees is that a PDF was uploaded to that location. It doesn't know that you didn't actually upload Board of Health approval. And people have found a way around this, and it creates—
It's not really a way around, though.
Well, it's a way around submitting an application incompletely. And it's a problem because I have hundreds of incomplete applications in the office which are not addressed.
So Huntington is using OpenGov, right? Babylon went to OpenGov?
Yes.
So, I mean, are there any building departments that if you submit an incomplete application, you're not number 20, you have to go to the back of the line? I mean, what are the other building departments doing, or are they just more caught up?
Well, I think that's the issue, is that they are more caught up. They did not see the influx of building that we did. They did not have all the circumstances here that East Hampton had when we went to the OpenGov portal. And I don't think they ever had the backlog where they were 500 applications behind, and these applications weren't being looked at the applicants to be told that they were incomplete for 6 months. if we were able to get to these applications in 2 to 4 weeks to be able to tell somebody this is incomplete and unacceptable, it wouldn't be such an issue. But
So advice to users, if it's not a great idea to submit something, a substitute in place, it doesn't help the process and it slows down the process
it
for
bogs down the
everyone.
entire system.
So if we all work together, good advice is to refrain from doing that.
Well, if you have 20 people submitting incomplete applications, the one person that does submit an incomplete application has to wait for the other 20 in front of them that are incomplete. So yeah, it creates an issue.
So Rich, one of the things you've done to kind of address this somewhat too is like the concept of the building department checklist, 100-point checklist. Just to clarify on that, everything in there is code, correct?
Yes.
There's nothing outside of that that's outside of the code.
No, I cited all the code sections on the list itself.
Okay.
And you're talking about the New York State Building Code?
Yes.
Not a town
Well, they go, there's a couple different codes in there on that list, including FEMA, the Town of East Hampton zoning code. So it's not just New York State Building Code.
So I just had a thought. I know Michael Forst is here. He spoke earlier, and he's now the East End chapter chair for Libby. And you and I are going to be meeting with him in the next week or two, to
Yes.
talk. Maybe we should also bring in a representative from the AIA Peconic and sit down and have, a brainstorming session or have them reach out to, their colleagues and explaining that this is now another part of the holdup, that we'll get to that 6 to 8 weeks, a lot faster if we got the cooperation of, the folks that are submitting these building permits that are not putting in complete applications, because it's in everyone's best interest and it's in, it's an important, part of our economy that this, that the construction industry is working, as we said, always said, and Mike said it today, predictably and consistently. So
Yes.
Maybe we should add,
But we could use some predictability on our end too. So it's the incomplete applications are an issue.
yeah.
I mean, just out of interest, what would it take a full-time body to actually review every application as it comes in for completeness? Like, I mean, how could one, just from a personnel perspective, stop that?
We're working on it. We're trying to come up with a solution on it, whether it'll be AI or to hire somebody to do that full-time. It's basically a plans reviewer's position because they're going to go through the entire application and make sure, first, it's technical because you need to know what's required for this particular application. Is it a new house? Is it in a flood zone? Does it encroach on wetlands? There's a lot of different things. Is it in an ag overlay district here? There's a lot of different things that you need to check on each application. Then on top of that, you have the energy code, you have Board of Health, you have all different other aspects of the New York State Building Code that you need to check. So someone would need to have someone doing this full time. It's a highly trained position.
Sure.
So just putting somebody there to look at it, you could set somebody down and say, if it's a new house, does it have Board of Health? Yes. But does the Board of Health match the application that they submitted?
So realistically, you're talking about a senior plans examiner or a principal plans examiner with that level of expertise to understand those nuances.
But we don't want to, I don't want to create another step in the process and create more bureaucracy and red tape on the process. So that would create, putting someone in that position will actually create another step, which I feel would slow the process down again. I'm not sure that that's a good idea. I think once we get caught up to these where we're supposed to be on the backlog, finding an incomplete application and letting somebody know that it's incomplete will be less of a problem because they won't be waiting 6 months for comments.
And they may not put in an application that's not complete because they know they're going to have the completed plans in 3 months and they're just trying to, they know they have to wait. So they, again, they want to hold their place in line.
Right,
So maybe if it's a quicker turnaround time,
right. I think
there's less apt to put in something that's,
this will be a problem that resolves itself once we get caught up.
and you've seen that at in
Yes,
your other
Yeah.
positions.
And you've also added positions to plans examiner. Well, because of the work with the county, we have senior plans examiner that's vacant right now. And then we'll have 3 plans examiners to work on that.
yes. So we'll actually have 4 senior and 3
4.
plans examiners, yes.
I will say, when it comes to completeness of applications, it seems like the right thing and a fair thing to do. If somebody is intentionally submitting information that's not accurate and they know it's not accurate, that they should not hold their place in line. To me, that's different than somebody who might be missing an honest mistake where not everything is quite perfect. But if you need health department and you just submit a blank piece of paper, to me, that doesn't count as a submission. And then the applicant knows that.
Yes.
So, I think if we nip that in the bud and just say you start over then, because otherwise it's bogging down people who are, in good faith trying to submit applications to be reviewed.
You've all been to my office. You've all seen the board on my office. I have over 100 applications there that are awaiting some piece of information that's missing. I mean, those applications are there because they're incomplete.
And again, to me, it's a difference when somebody obviously was intentionally doing that, knowingly doing it, or might be missing some small detail that they
Put in
didn't
the wrong
realize.
thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Rich, just last thing, just kind of 3 metrics that historically we did get. I mean, like, how many applications are we typically getting a month right now? How many are we pushing out and how many are in the system?
The exact numbers I don't have here. We're probably getting around 150 applications a month, somewhere in that realm. I would say we're putting out right about that number right now. But we're making headway every month. We're catching up every month. I would say we're every month we go, we catch up a month. So we're definitely putting out more than we're taking in right now.
So back in March, I want to say we had about 1,400 applications in there. You think that number's come down quite a bit?
Well, it was 1,400 applications in total, not
Right.
1,400 applications not issued. Yes.
No, right.
Yeah.
Totally.
So right now, I would say we're probably somewhere around 400 applications.
Significant.
But we're only, I think, by the end of the year, and that's taking into account the applications we're going to receive over the next couple months. I think we'll be caught up by January 1st. I think we'll be looking at that, 4 to 6 weeks that we're talking about.
It's good news.
Good work, Rich.
No, all
and
good
to
news.
To you and your whole team.
Yeah, we're definitely on the right path. We're on the upswing.
Great.
Okay, thank
You're
you.
going to stick around, though, for
Yes,
the
I'll stick
next
around.
2
Thank you.
discussions. Beautiful. All right, Jake, I don't know if Charlie's joining you.
I can do it on my own.
You got it. So now we're going to discuss an amendment to Chapter 102-8, issuance of building permits.
Good evening, good evening, good
evening.
morning, town board. My
You've probably
timeline's
been
a
up
bit
long
off.
enough to call it evening. Yeah.
It's my pleasure to be in front of you today to discuss Chapter 102, Section 8, issuance of building permit, wherein we are specifically recommending that we strike the last portion of that code, quote unquote, and in all events within 15 days. Now, Charlie Collins and I have read this code 10 ways to Tuesday. We feel as though it is confusing because the public feels as though this requires a permit to be issued within 15 days or disapproved within 15 days. That is simply not legally possible. Because if a permit is automatically issued, then what it can do is specifically trump the New York State Building Code. Guys, I don't want to enter any building in this town where a permit has been issued automatically, because we won't know if it's safe or not. We will not know if it meets the code or not. You simply cannot do it. It is wrong, and this is a way that we correct it. Within my memo that Charlie drafted most of it, he indicated that as he looked at other jurisdictions, they don't have this language either. This goes back to what Mr. Normal has spoken about over the past few months on the role of the building department. It has evolved. You're in a new place now. Our code must be updated to meet the times. This is something that must be done. We must strike that language to ensure that his hands aren't tied in what needs to be done. And you have a duty to protect the safety and well-being of the residents in the town. And striking that does that.
So my question, and one of the issues that I see with having that very antiquated, it's such an old, we couldn't, I mean, when did it even get done? What was the volume of work in the town at the time that got put in? But what concerns me for applicants, I'm going to talk on that side for a minute, is that what you need to have a complete application, as we were just talking about, doesn't just come from the building department. You need outside agencies to supply you with information as well. And if you get stuck with waiting for something from the health department, which you need for septic systems, it's not something, an occasional approval that you need, or any of the outside agencies for your approval, then it calls into the legality of the time frame that you need from outside agencies, which the town or the building department has no control over. So that's an impediment to being able to meet that we can't fix or we can't control. And I think that that's a problem not only for the town, but also for applicants, because then I do think you get into that push feeling where you've got to get this in, and it leads to more mistakes made in the submissions and incomplete applications by trying to get that. For me also, it is an unrealistic timeframe. I think everyone can agree with that. Especially when you look at all the other town codes, that there's no municipality that is anywhere around us that has that type of pressure built in to a requirement. And also, I think it would, let me figure out how I'm going to say this right. I'm concerned that it would trigger someone recommending a legal action, thinking that may get something done quicker, when in reality, once something gets stuck in courts, it could take 10 times as longer.
I'm sorry to stop you for one moment, because on that note, I have received calls and emails from attorneys saying, hey, we submitted our application. It's been more than 15 days. I have the building department look at it. Each and every time something is missing. One time somebody submitted plans that weren't stamped. Rich already spoke about that.
Well, it just triggers, you know, if people think there's going to be relief going to court, court takes 10 times as long. So actually it's going to take longer. So it's kind of a false idea that, well, if they don't get it done in 15 days, I have recourse that'll move it forward, which isn't necessarily true, because when it gets to court, as I said, it could take much longer. So I think just starting a conversation on the 15 days doesn't work for me.
The only thing to say to that, though, and in fairness, I think to applicants, is that if something is missing, we would disapprove of that application and tell them, no, we don't approve of this because you're missing items. So I don't think it's a total either or, you know? So I agree with what you're saying. I think 15 days is unrealistically short, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the point is that they have some sort of feedback so they can do whatever the next steps are.
They do have feedback, because ultimately anything that is done or not done by the building inspector can be appealed to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So if they feel as though Rich has not gotten back to them in a short amount of time, they can go to the Zoning Board. So they have recourse. But to put any sort of timeline on issuance of a permit presupposes that that permit will be issued without proper planning review, which means buildings can go up that are unsafe.
From my perspective, I appreciate the challenge of the 15-day timeline. I think having no timeline is in itself a challenge as well. We and ourselves and Rich's prior presentation, we said the expectation is for us that we want that department to be issuing permits within 6 to 8 weeks, which is 42 to 56 days. Is that a realistic time frame? I think that when you're looking at this from outside the perspective of government operations and actually looking from the business perspective, giving that kind of guidance to look, our operations expect that we can get these permits out to you within this time frame, I think is fair and realistic. I appreciate the safety.
Councilman, we are not a business. We're a government. We have to ensure.
Serve the public, though.
Yeah, and we have to ensure that the public is safe. If any sort of timeline you put on, you are compromising the safety of the public.
I understand why you're saying it in that direction, but I think we ourselves are saying that our goal is to be able to do that in 6 to 8 weeks.
Great goal.
Right.
And hold Rich accountable to get those things done. And he's responding very well. But to put it in the code, you are by definition sacrificing the safety of the public.
But I think you're making a commitment in the code to the public of what the expectation should be.
At the expense of their safety.
I don't know if that's necessarily true.
Well, you could.
Because if you say, look at the town buildings, for example, right? There are many town buildings that don't have COs. So when you're saying you don't want to be in a building that doesn't have those safety issues, you're standing in one.
Actually, no, there is a CO that was issued for this.
This?
Yes.
Okay, all town buildings?
I don't know, but this building, there is a CO for. I'll show it to you.
Okay, but not all town buildings. I can tell you that.
I don't know.
From my own research. So I think that, look, the nuances of what we should expect as the public to how the town turns around these things, having that in the code, for me, I think is acceptable.
And I'd advise against it because of the safety concerns.
So my comments on this, very similar to when I was on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and there's a 62-day determination window from when the record is closed. The only chance that you actually get to a point where you are actually heard by the Zoning Board of Appeals is by having a completed application. And here, there's two things I think should be added. 15 days just doesn't work where we're at, and that's been in there since 2004. That's antiquated just as much as my hip replacement was when that thing broke by emergency, and we're at an emergency right now too. What I would like to see on here is the language to be from a completed application or something to that, because that's not in here. Submission, it just says application, and that's even with what the recommended languages could be. It should be completed application or whatever the context we want to use on there then too, or when reviewed. I do see there's a value of having a time frame of return of expectation on there. That time frame of expectation should be something that all can be accountable to, and that can be from the applicant itself to the town, to also to that, not just the town, the departments, and that's not a short time frame on there. 15 days doesn't work for me. I would want to have something that would be reasonable to work within the parameters of where we're at now, but also in the future then too. So I can have further discussions on that, but I think that's something that can lay out good expectations also and secure the public safety then too. So I'll continue to have that overall, that this code has to be changed from where it is now. I'm not sure where I land on that, but I would like to see something in that will make sure give everyone a guiding light to how we make this change.
And I agree. And I actually agree with everyone who spoke so far, but I do think it's important to somehow have language that says, that ensures, Jake, what you're talking about is that nothing's automatically approved, that if there's some part of an application that has to take longer, there has to be some kind of trigger for a second to make sure that whatever goes out has been thoroughly reviewed.
Completely.
Something like that has to be for public safety.
And I think there's in the context of that, of a backstop, if we might want to call it there, well, a deadline, I guess would be better, to a completedness of an application on there, to having all jurisdictions that might be on an application from Suffolk County, if it's DEC to the town, have it all in. So I would be interested in bolstering this recommendation of the change to try to include all of those in which all the parties can be secure that we're moving forward. overall, the 15-day review time right now is antiquated.
No, it's antiquated also by the size of the houses that are being built. I mean, in 2004, the average house size is much smaller than what's being built now. It didn't have the pool houses. I mean, everything's changed. So we also need the time to make sure all those elements are safe. And that really is what it comes down to for me is safety.
So let me ask you, so the title is issuance of building permits. So what we're saying is that, let's just say we make the number 60 days. If the building inspector shall approve or disapprove the completed application within a reasonable time and in all events within 60 days. So is that what we're saying, is that if he or she doesn't issue it or disapprove it in 60 days, they automatically get a building permit?
Correct.
What if do we have to have a title of issuance of building permits?
No, we could.
Like it shouldn't, I mean, I don't think anyone wants us to have we want to hold the department accountable so that things are moving, and the board, because we're the ones that fund the department and the staffing. We want to give the community, the building community, an idea of how long things are going to take to turn around, what's reasonable. But I don't think that there should be a trigger that if we don't do it by the time the shot clock's up, you're getting your building permit.
Correct.
Because we wouldn't want a building permit to go out that hasn't had the eyes and, of the building inspector on it, and that it met all of town code and public safety.
I don't disagree. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so maybe we can put a reasonable time frame in, but there's no trigger to automatically issue a building permit.
And we also have to carve out for documents received by outside agencies. If we're waiting on a Board of Health and we can't move forward, there should be something.
Well, that goes to David to put in here completed application.
I'd recommend I have some input from the board. I can come back whenever the board wants with an updated version.
Sure.
Very shortly, so.
Yeah.
I
We can do it either next week or the week after.
Yeah, I completely understand your concerns on there about having structures that don't have review on there. I think that's something that we can't do. But if this is going to be something we're going to put in the code that 23 years ago, whatever it may have been when it was initially put in the code, has become antiquated, I want to make sure 23 years from now that the decision we make, it lasts that long and we have forward, good sight, hindsight, not using hindsight to direct our determination moving forward in the right way. We need to make this a safe way, but also a reasonable way for all parties involved.
Yeah, I agree with everything we've said here. I mean, I think the other piece here is like, look, I thank people for coming today to speak, but I think this is something that we need to ensure that we're engaging the building community with too, not just saying this is how it's going to be. And that's my other slight concern. So I think as we come back, ensure we're doing that outreach to say, hey, look, this is why we're moving in this direction. What are your concerns? What are your feedback? And incorporating it as we can.
Right. And there's also, this is a local law, so it's going to go to public hearing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm just also, we should take a good look at what all the neighboring municipalities are doing here as well.
Well, it's kind of spelled out in the memo.
That's what I'm saying. We should take a look at that.
Jake, I've got a question. I mean, at reasonable time. So if we did strike the 15 days and left it just at a reasonable time, presumably that can't be indefinite. So there would be a point at which somebody could still challenge that if it's 5 years from now, or, that's an arbitrarily large number. But what would happen then? It can't carry on forever. So
to me, reasonableness is a subjective standard, not necessarily objective. So when we look at it, we have to ask ourselves, what is a reasonable time right now for the building department to review an application? To say 15 days is completely wrong. Given the number of applications, given the new OpenGov and its rollout, what we need is, right now, we see what Rich put up the timeline before. That's reasonable.
So I guess, I agree that 15 days, I think everybody sort of acknowledges that has never really been the reality in town. Or maybe I'm wrong, but at least in recent history, that's not been the reality. I share Tom and Dave's concerns that not having any timeline whatsoever, especially at this stage where things have been a little bit, and this is no critique of any of the building department staff, and people are working very, very hard, but the circumstances are such that, permits have been delayed more than anybody would like. So I have a hard time just leaving that totally open-ended. I do understand the concern about safety. Safety is obviously paramount. What if, as Kathy said, there wasn't an automatic issuance, or there was some trigger to say that plans had to be certified? We've talked about self-certifying, which I know people don't have interest in right now, but in the case that plans were approved in some sort of automatic way, that there was a licensed engineer to certify that they met state code.
You can't do that because as Rich reviews certified plans, we find mistakes. Happens all the time.
Well, it's also in the New York State Building Code. We would have to change the New York State Building Code because right now compliance to New York State Building Code and fire codes is the obligation and responsibility of the municipality's building department. So we've heard about a law that's been talked about. It's been up in Albany. That law needs to the New York State Building Code would need to be changed so that we would be able to have somebody else stamp plans for compliance to New York State building codes and safety and fire codes, that stamp would count for compliance to those codes. Right now, it doesn't, as per New York State Building Code, it's in the code. So it's the architect stamps are by the Department of Education. That's for compliance to design standards. So you can't submit plans without that, which thank goodness, because that's also safety. But then the onus of compliance to the New York State Building Code and fire codes right now is on a municipality. That's according to the New York State Building Code. That has to be changed first. That's why there's lobbying efforts going on to change the New York State Code.
We all agree, obviously, the best case scenario. And Rich, thank you for your presentation. I know that your staff has been working very, very hard to get caught up, and you are. So the goal is obviously to review everything and get it done at a reasonable amount of time, and this will never be an issue. But I guess what I'm talking about, and I don't know the legal intricacies of it all, but what I'm trying to differentiate between is somebody submits an application and at some point challenges us that it's no longer a reasonable amount of time or doesn't meet the specific standard. I want to differentiate between somebody who submitted an application that's a drawing of Mickey Mouse or somebody who submitted an actual bona fide, and I think that we can get a little bit more nuanced with that. And so we're not going to figure it all out right now.
That is a spot where we can discuss further, certainly.
And the other thing that I want to say in terms of a complete application, I agree with Dave that completeness is important, but at the same time, there may be somebody who submits an incomplete application accidentally, and they want to know that within a time period too. So, I think that the clock probably starts again if they get comments and say you were missing your health department approval or whatever it is. But I don't think we should leave it open-ended, because if somebody looks at an application a year later and it's incomplete and they just find out about it, that is also difficult. So, I want to balance the expecting a complete application, but with also giving feedback to point out things that might have been missed.
And to be clear, I met with a builder with Rich, and that builder had submitted plans with no Board of Health and then resubmitted new, totally different plans for a different house. And unstamped.
So I don't want to put Rich on the spot, but Rich, listening to this conversation, is there anything, thoughts that you want to add or for us to consider?
Like I said before, dealing with the incomplete applications is an issue. I understand your point, Ian, about an applicant who accidentally submits something. And yes, of course that happens. And we're not looking to reject applications if a homeowner submits an application and forgets to submit something or accidentally doesn't upload anything. But I'm talking about applications that we're receiving from builders and from expediters that you all know that people do work here in the town every single day that are submitting incomplete applications, knowingly submitting them. I received a set of plans on a revision last week, and I'll show them. I'm not going to bring up names or mention those things here, but I did a review. I sent my review out. I got the revised set of plans back to my office, unstamped, completely unstamped, and this by an expediter that's here that we deal with on a daily basis. it's a problem. I don't know, OpenGov does not have the ability to screen these things. So it's causing a bottleneck.
Yeah.
It really is. Is there a percentage of people who do it accidentally? Yes, but there is a large percentage of people who do it purposely.
I totally understand, and I'm familiar with some of those cases for sure. But I guess if this time limit was a more reasonable time limit, if you identify that as something missing, then we can disapprove of the application and we meet the standard.
Yes.
So I think that there might be, I know how much work your department has, and so obviously anything that we do here, we want to do it with your blessing. And make sure that your department's comfortable with it. But I think that there might be some sort of compromise where there is a reasonable time limit for us just to, all the things that you're saying, in my mind, we could just point them out as problems and say we disapprove because of that.
Yeah, so
But
let me give an example of something that may
The issuance of a
happen.
building permit on a shot clock would be a problem.
Yeah.
Because essentially what would happen would be you would issue a building permit, would be automatically issued without review. And then once that structure is built, it's there. You're never going to get those people to change it or remove it. It's going to be a self-perpetuating problem that you're never going to be able to get rid of. That is, it would be a mistake to move forward and issue building permits on a shot clock with a timeline. And because we had a backlog and we didn't get to it in time, a building permit is automatically issued, it would cause a multitude of problems.
Right. So just for folks that are listening into the conversation too, so in the memo that Jake and Charlie drafted, it says East Hampton Town is the only municipality that has a hard deadline for approval or denial of a building permit application. East Hampton Village states that the permit shall be approved or disapproved within a reasonable time. Sag Harbor Village also references an application being approved or disapproved within a reasonable time. Southampton Town and North Haven Village are more open-ended and just say that the application will be reviewed. So.
Just to clarify one thing,
Yes.
Ian, you said self-certification. I believe what it's called is professional certification at this point. So it's just like certain professions are.
Yeah.
In regards to?
Just the concept of actually allowing some architects to submit plans and they have a stamp in their place, and that's what's being lobbied in Albany right now. I think what people are looking for within Albany and that is like, do towns across Long Island bluntly support that as the concept? I know in the past when it was looked at, about 13 towns did write in support. I believe it's kind of being mooted around in Albany right now because it's not just here that you're seeing the backlog. I mean, it's across Long Island, it's impacting affordable housing and other projects. So people are looking at ways, how do we kind of speed up the processing of building permits? And professional certification is one of the ways that they're looking to do that.
Is that the one that there's a bill in Albany since like 2018?
Yes.
I don't think it's made it out of the local government committee. And just, for context, Fred Thiel was the chair of that committee for a number of years. I think it has opposition from the CSEA.
That is correct.
And so if the CSEA opposes it, I don't think it'll ever get out of committee.
Right. I think that's one of the reasons they're looking to revisit it, is kind of hearing those CSA objections and what could potentially change to allow it. So I think it's kind of one of those ones where they're like, look, there is a problem here within building permits being issued. Is this a possible avenue to explore it? And is it something towns would be
So
supportive
that, to do that.
I didn't mean to open, I realize this is a valid conversation, but I wasn't meaning to open the door to professional certification as a general way to get a building permit. I just meant in the case that we were up against a clock or there was some court action, that we should have an out to make sure there's at least some professional stamp involved that says all those things are in place, as opposed to an application that's not at all viable. The planning department relies on applicants' engineer stamps all the time. An applicant has their own engineer, they stamp it, and that we basically trust that. The town does hire an engineer to go over some of those things in certain cases, but there's a history of governments, municipalities trusting stamps to some degree. So all I'm saying is that, not a big thing where they can get their own permits necessarily, but in the case we're up against the clock, to at least have the out to say,
Yeah. But Ian, you realize that if you get a zoning board approval, it still has to then go to the building department for the BP, and that's where you get the review for safety. And if it doesn't work in that, then what the building zoning board approves has to still meet the New York State Building Code when it gets to issuance of a building permit.
Yeah, although I would say like when it comes to planning board stuff, there's site plan applications that have engineering that aren't going through the scrutiny at the building department level that would catch an engineering
But it
mistake.
still would have to go to if they're constructing something, whatever the regulatory boards approve in their determinations is valid, but then they still have to go to the building department for review of the building plans, regardless of what the boards do.
And we consistently receive plans from architects. Granted, there are some that are very good and make very few mistakes, but we on a daily basis receive plans from architects with major issues with our zoning code. We receive 3-story structures based on the fact that our zoning code requires height to be taken from natural grade. A lot of people miss that, and they submit applications for 3-story structures. We receive applications above pyramid height here, and a lot of specifics of the zoning code here. These are common mistakes. If building permits were issued on these houses and they were built that way, you're gonna wind up with lawsuits. It's gonna be a problem.
Jake, just very quickly, I mean, obviously, like, we had a recent court case against the town that we lost. That was appealed.
I'm going to advise we don't speak about that right now.
Okay. Because it's still being appealed?
We're in the process of many things here. But in an open forum like this, it'd be improper for me to be giving a legal update or legal advice to the board.
Okay, so you're going to take all this information.
I got a lot to take in. But yes, I will.
And come back to us.
Yep, I can do that.
Great. All right, don't go anywhere.
No, I'm not going anywhere.
Now we're going to talk about a proposed amendment to Chapter 10214, Certificate of Occupancy.
So this should be one that Libby likes. This is one that I actually came up with during my time in Huntington, when I ran the building department there, and I was also an attorney for the town, wherein we came up with a method to allow for third-party inspections, meaning you don't have to rely upon the town for an inspection for an updated C of O. What we are saying is you can use a licensed engineer or architect who will certify that all structures on the property have applicable COs and that is matched on the survey that is submitted. Rich actually went 10 steps further and did an excellent definition section, which helps define affidavit of compliance, surveys, and the like. So first and foremost, this is one where we are trying to find a way to make it easier for the public to get the updated C of O by utilizing third party. And the last thing we are doing is explicitly saying that if this isn't done, then the building department has the authority to go to a local court and get a search warrant, which is already in the code. It just links that up together.
Yeah, I support this change. I think that it's valid. I also think it's a better way to process compliance for COs. Then I think it's more legally compliant to how we view updated COs than just making folks go for a complete updated CO. So for me, this works.
Yeah, I'm supportive of this. You know, I think I have supported this concept for a while. Frankly, the feedback I've heard from the industry has not been incredibly positive on this because they want to know that the building department themselves have certified this, have issued a new CO, and they don't want to have somebody certify it and then after a transaction have a problem later. I still support it as an option, but to be clear, this wouldn't reduce our attentiveness to people who want the building department to reissue a CO.
Oh, completely not.
It's just a separate option for somebody who says, I can't wait, I know everything is legal, and we give them an opportunity to have their own CO.
No, 1 second, their own inspection.
Right.
Rich will still be issuing the updated C of O. So to the people in the community that are concerned about that, no. What Rich gives is completely and utterly valid, independent of who does the inspection. So,
but we still,
Issuing an updated C of O, or is he issuing an affidavit of compliance?
no, an affidavit of compliance is what is submitted by the licensed professional, that engineer or architect who has done the appropriate research to determine that all structures on the property have applicable COs, and that's reflected on the survey.
Yeah, and Rich, you explained this to me very well.
So this is an option for a homeowner to allow their architect to certify that a property has no illegal structures. If your house is built in 1980 and you never did any updates, there's no sheds, pools, finished basements, anything built without a permit, the architect will be able to certify that the CO matches what is currently there and will be able to issue an updated CO based on that affidavit.
So if the architect misrepresents themselves on that affidavit, they risk losing their license.
It's their stamp, yes.
Right.
well, I'm supportive of this, again, with the caveat that I want to, also want the building department to be available, and we are completely, to do our own inspections so people don't have to hire their own.
Absolutely not.
But I think it's a good, another option.
Right. And this wouldn't, local law, the way it's drafted, wouldn't go into effect till January 1st, 2027.
So that keeps with the board's idea of not having court actions brought against people
Right.
who don't comply.
Just, Adam, just the timing wise, is there a reason why we wouldn't want to pull this up earlier, just given the CO issues?
We're not, we passed a resolution to not enforce COs till the end of the year.
Gotcha.
I think this is the cleanest way to go.
All right.
I support taking the
Everybody
public
good?
hearing.
So let's take it, if you can notice it a week from Thursday.
Yes,
I remember the dates in my head. 16th.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, Tom, you're up. Amagansett Street lighting update.
Yes, thank you. I will try and make this quick because a lot of this is imagery, but there's a few kind of key pieces I wanted to update the board members and the public on with regards to this project. So the Amagansett CAC Main Street Lighting Subcommittee had requested that the town examine lighting safety concerns on Main Street. As people may know, we've had multiple MVAs in this area, including one fatality at nighttime. Just some kind of follow-ups we've done to this. I did reach out to PD and the fire district to understand if they have any safety concerns pertaining to the lighting. They did not report any at this point. They do have other projects they're working on, including management of ride shares on Main Street where they're parking and possible crosswalk upgrades. When we're looking at this project, I think it's also important for the public to know that the cost of this project is not on all town residents. There's a specific tax district, the Amagansett Lighting District, that would cover the cost of this. Currently, the maintenance for lighting in the district runs at about $65,000 annually for maintenance and repair. The other kind of change we had a presentation from Susan Harder of the Dark Skies Alliance. Just the existing lighting we have in this area is not dark sky compliant. They have some very forward-thinking concepts as to what they would like to see in terms of this project. We are aligned with dark sky compliance, in terms of the LED lumens. It's 2,200 K. And then lastly, we also reached out to New York State Department of Transport, just ensuring we have any regulations they have in all design features. So we go to the next slide, please. So this is the area we're talking about. It runs from east to west. As we look here, it goes down to Abraham's Landing Road in the east. There was discussion as to whether we include lighting fixtures down to them, which we'll get onto in a little bit. We have in this proposal included that. The other piece we've kind of had here is just in terms of safety. It's not just about road and pedestrian interactions where we've had the MVAs. It's also about pedestrian safety on the pathways. We're aware that the trees that are a key feature of the hamlet's distinct character have resulted in some unevenness in the sidewalks. To the eastern end of this area, there is no lighting, as we'll kind of get to. So providing lighting on those pathways is a key goal of this project as well. As we've discussed discussed before, a key aspect of this project is maintaining the character of the hamlet. And we did receive feedback from various parties with regards to that. The most critical element here is minimal interaction with the trees. That is, we want to keep that tree character. There is also a request, from some ACAC members that there's just general safety concerns within this area. David, I know you forwarded an email to me this morning about the possibility of a crosswalk at the western end of this area. We do see significant traffic crossing there. So just ongoing, we will continue to look at safety in this area. All right, moving on to the next slide. So one thing we asked PD to do is use the drones to, if we go down 2 slides, sorry. Just PD to provide some aerial shots looking east to west as we go down. So we go to aerial 1 of 5 if possible. This is the, thank you. This is the western end. As you can see here, that there is lighting, but you can see on both sides there's dark spots where pedestrians or cars may park, which results in some safety concerns. The goal is to have uniform lighting across the way. Moving west, next slide. So this continues down. Right now, you're kind of looking down to where the Stephen Tork House is. You can see the Amagansett Squares on the right of that image. Again, highly trafficked area, inadequate lighting on that area. One thing to mention about these aerials is when they were taken. These were taken in March of this year, sorry, April of this year. At that point in time, there is no foliage on the trees. So this is the maximum lighting coverage you have. Many of the fixtures we have in this area are actually above the tree line. So during the peak season, the lighting diminishes even further. Slide 3. So here you can see the 2 crosswalks adjacent to the Amagansett Library. This is actually looking west in this image, just in case people are confused. So you can see the municipal parking lot is on the right there. Again, the Amagansett Square is on the left of this image. The crosswalk itself has some inadequate lighting on that southern side as well. Moving down to slide 4, aerial 4, please. So one more slide down, sorry. Thank you. Okay, so here you can see the new lighting of the Amagansett School on the top right of this image. This is one of the kind of key areas of concern that we're looking to address. There is no lighting on the northern side of this area as the crosswalk. This is kind of one area where there are trip hazards and inadequate road lighting as well. And then slide 5. Okay, so just to give people some reference points here, again, we're looking east. Those bright lights in the distance are the fire department, but there is minimal lighting in this area here. So just kind of highlighting the need for the lighting from a safety perspective.
Tom, are these drone shots from way up high?
Correct. Yeah, they vary in height between different drone shots. Yeah, I'm trying to give different perspectives of the images. So design plans. LKMA, who's previously done presentations on this, have done some photometric engineering design plans. The fixtures I mentioned earlier will be 2,200 K LED luminaries. On the right here, you have an example of a possible fixture. This is what Sag Harbor has done. Again, this is right sizing. It's about a 12-foot pole, which is in line with the DOT guidelines. The final fixtures will be determined by the ARB. It will have to go before them because this is obviously a historic district. Internal design costs just of this project to date to the taxpayer have been about $70,000, which has been to LKMA. So next slide. Design plans, lighting fixtures, as I mentioned at the start, they start on the south side of Main Street at the corner of Indian Wells Highway. That's a slight change. Previously, they started on the north side up by Amelia's Cottage, but feedback's come to just bring them slightly further east. And they go down to the junction at Abraham's Landing Road. There's 2 fixtures down that have been included because that has been historically challenging area. There's also a lot of foot, bike, and car traffic in that area at that junction, so they wanted to ensure adequate lighting. From Indian Wells to Meeting House Lane, lighting will be on both sides of the street, but then as you move further east, the lighting will only be on the north side of the street as that's the primary pedestrian access to the train station. And then just per the planning department's guidance, the goal here is to have all fixtures be uniform in appearance. So there's been some discussion with the lighting committee. Do we want different fixture heads to keep the kind of quirky character of Amagansett? But planning department's been adamant that they feel they should be uniform. So next slide, if we can. These are the design plans that have been updated. So as you can see here, we're starting, these red dots are where the lighting fixtures will be, starting on the south side of Main Street, right by the existing mobile station. As you move east to west, west to east. You can see where the fixtures are going to be. We can move through these slides fairly quickly. If you get to slide West Design Plans 3 of 4. Perfect, thank you. You can see this is the point at which they're only on the northern side of the road. One other change just to update the board members. Previously, they've discussed bollard, lower lighting fixtures. These are now all going to be, as I said, be uniform 12-foot fixtures the entire way. And then slide Design Plan 4 of 4, you can just see those last two fixtures right at the junction of Abraham's Landing Road by the railway crossing. Next slide, if we could. Just very quickly, just in terms of how these have been designed, these are the photovoltaic overlays. This is just basically showing that this design plan ensures that we have consistent lighting. There's no gaps across the entire roadway, so the entire area will be lit accordingly. Next, we can go on next slide. So just estimated cost, this is just another new piece of information for the public and the board. So the total cost for this project is coming in at about 1.7 million. Included in this is everything I'm showing on this item description. Includes 64 light fixtures, surface restoration, curb ramps, asphalt restoration, concrete curbs, topsoil and seeding. So it's not just the lighting fixtures. There's quite a few pieces of this project which drive that cost to the 1.7 million. So what I wanted to do here is just kind of explain the impact to taxpayers in this district. You know, as we mentioned at the start, the annual operating costs currently are $65,000 a year. This project would increase those costs to the taxpayer by $100,000 annually for principal and interest. You know, from a property owner's perspective, if you have a property that's assessed at $4,000 with a market value of $1.25 million, your annual tax increase is $20.28, or over the lifetime of the project, $608. If you have a property assessed at $10,000 or that market value of $3.1 million, your annual tax increase is $51 with a 30-year cost of $1,500. So, you know, not insignificant, but not a huge increase. Just some notes of concern that have been raised as we brought this project forward. You know, there are some concerns I mentioned earlier that this is a homogeneous lighting plan, so the fixtures will be the same. Some people feel that is not in keeping of Amagansett unique character. As I mentioned earlier, some people within the dark sky movement feel that we should be pushing harder to have fixtures that are even more stringent than the dark sky compliance. This project does not do that. And then, you know, the last piece here, especially on that northern side where there has historically been no lighting, there are residences there that I want to do some direct outreach to. Just, you know, they will have lighting in front of their house now, which has not historically happened. So want to make sure that those are heard as well. Next steps for this project, if we have feedback today from board members, we'll take that on board. I'm going to be doing some outreach to the tax district's residents. I don't know if we've done this in the past, but ideally I'd like to do a letter or, you know, something on the town webpage, just allowing them to kind of access this presentation. I'll be doing presentations to ACAC, AVIS, the Historical Society, the library, and the fire district. And then subject to approval from all groups, we'll bring this to ARB for feedback and look to get this into the 2027 plan. And then last slide, just thank you for everyone who's worked with me on this, the lighting subcommittee, AVIS, the Historical Society, Fire District, and the town departments. That's it.
Questions, comments for Tom?
I actually think the uniform poles would not take away from the quirky character because they won't be the subject of your head going, oh, I'm looking at a light pole versus your surrounding areas. So they won't be distracted by the light poles. They'll just kind of fit in if they're all the same. That's my only feedback.
So in full transparency, I am a minority owner of a property that's within the taxing district. That's pretty commonly known. Overall, as an individual, I still support this project moving forward. I do like the uniformity of the heights of the fixtures. I think that's appropriate. Also, the removal of certain locations and addition of certain locations, I think assists how people use the pathways to get to the modalities, to the train stations, to the bus stations, to the parking lots on there then too. I'm very comfortable with some of the designs that have been coming in with dark sky compliant fixtures that will have historical context in nature. As far as the residences on there, I know in the village of East Hampton, I'm a member of the Presbyterian Church. We actually did a blackout on one side of one of the non-dark sky compliant, well, I'll leave it at that, the globes at that time, which are still beautiful, but they blacked it out. So the manse, which is where our pastor lives, so the lights wouldn't, the light wouldn't go into their windows. There's ways to do that. I do look forward to this going forward and see what the comments you're going to hear back from community members that are probably going to be of different opinions. I wish you the best on that.
Yeah, I'm supportive as well. I appreciate that at the end you noted sort of the known potential concerns and how they'll be addressed, such as A or B, looking at historic, appropriateness. I'm sure there's going to be different opinions on this. This seems like a very sensible plan to me. Lighting is a problem there for safety. And this seems very tastefully done, though I welcome all the public comments as it progresses.
The lighting in Sag Harbor Village is nice. It's not blinding. I think it's dark sky compliance as well. And it just has a nice amber glow where people are walking. So
Yeah, listen, when it comes to aesthetics, you can't tell how people are allowed. I mean, personally, I agree with you, but some people feel it's not for them.
Yeah, I mean, I went to the ACAC meeting where Matt presented, and some are concerned it's going to look like a runway, with the lights, and there's concern there. I would like to see this move forward. I know that this project started in the summer of '23, and looking forward to getting this moving. As David said, I don't think, and Ian as well, there's a lot of groups that you're going to be interacting with, and we're not going to please everybody.
No.
But I hope it can be done expeditiously so we can get the project started.
Yeah, and some of these lights, the same ones that are in the in the Sag Harbor Lighting District that's on Division Street, those lights are the exact same lights that we also have out on the docks on West Lake Drive out there then too. So there's ways individuals can go see what some of this type of lighting might look in an area that's not too far away before they pass judgment just based on 2D things. They can go actually and live it a little bit more than too. There's a way for it to be tastefully done. So I might recommend that to you as you outreach also. We're already using this type of technology in the town.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Great. All right. We are up to liaison reports.
Thank you.
Hello, I am Sam.
Oh, not yet. Sit, Sam.
My apologies, that was us.
Telemundo version is good. All right, I'll start with the I'm Against Citizens Advisory Committee. We are meeting next Monday, 6:30 p.m. at the school library. Sanitation, we're hoping to open up the construction and debris on Monday the 13th. We also want to report that the new lean-to is also almost complete, and engineers are working on upgrades for the sanitation to buildings. The sanitation drainage project, the main scope of that project is complete, and they should be paving that this week. ADU implementation, we'll be meeting this month to discuss whether to recommend to allow ADUs in the Harbor Overlay District. We've previously discussed this. We want to bring the committee together to make a recommendation to the board. Digitization, just historical documents are really where this is at. IT is continuing to enter the 2024 documents as provided by the assessor's office. We still have about 2,000 records prior to that period that have not yet been digitized. We're going to be meeting this month with IT, building department, assessor's office, and any other parties internally that wish to join to review next steps. Brooks Park, I just wanted to bring this up because Councilman Piedmont, you'd mentioned this and we got the board here together, but I know the management committee had asked, does the board wish for the management committee to amend the management plan on that project at this time? I'm okay with that as a concept because I think the existing management plan has been challenging for us to move forward with. So I would be supportive of the committee actually updating that plan, but I just want to poll other board members while we're here to see if you're supportive of that.
Yeah, to be clear, that question came out of the previous meeting at the Property Management Committee. This is a property that they would naturally review, but since there is already an adopted management plan, they said, well, really it's up to the board. The board adopted a management plan, a previous board, and if we want to change it, then we should ask them. They didn't want to take any action before they
Right.
knew that that was the direction they wanted to go.
And I think when we've reviewed the management plan with the various Brooks Parks committees, I think, the feedback's been that management plan is challenging.
Yeah.
It's not something we think we can realistically operate, so perhaps it is time for an update on that.
Yeah, and if anybody else has any thoughts, let me know.
Yeah.
I can support updating.
Is the new group that's looking to manage that project, are they want to operate it differently than what's in the management plan?
Well, we don't have a licensee yet at all. So the idea would be the property management committee would create a new management plan.
But isn't
then-
there a group that's interested in licensing?
So they had been, but we've not heard back from the last question we had to them is what area do you wish to license very specifically? And we're waiting to get that feedback from them. It's been a few
Well,
months.
why don't we wait to hear back from them before we task the property management committee?
No, I just think maybe some physical attributes of the property has changed since that
Okay.
management plan was written in. Maybe we should
All right.
be
And just
proactive.
the other piece while we're on that area is I would, if funds are available next year, because I know we've committed funds for this year, but installing fencing around the residence property, I think at this point in time is a good safety move. That building continues
I
to
got no
deteriorate.
problem with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an I've said it for.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't, maybe we should just get a cost estimate now and see if we can
I'll ask Scott to
find the
get that.
funding.
Fort Hill Cemetery, we had the resolution on last week. We'll be doing irrigation on the new section of the cemetery. That committee will also be meeting this month with the departure of Bill Hoffman, which is very sad to the whole Montauk community. We will be looking for a new committee member. If any members of the public have interest in that, please contact my office for consideration by the committee. The new community center fencing, we've had quotes come back in for fencing around the perimeter of that property of 70 to 75,000. However, it does note in there that the contractor will not install until there's adequate egress and access to the perimeter of the property for trucks and equipment. I just spoke with Steve this morning too. He's also kind of commenting that the installation of the fencing will also require an excavator to get the fencing in itself because the existing tree stumps will not permit that. So, the tree stumps present a problem both in terms of access. I know we're seeing if the adjacent neighbors might grant us access, but irrespective, we'll have to have an excavator in there. There is a county contract that we can rent an excavator for around $7,500 a month. Steve and Rob Green would be able to operate that according to Steve's group. The other option there, just in terms of polling, is the concept of a berm. I know that, in terms of where we're at with that, I think just going to update, the possibilities of that. The adjacent neighbors are favorable towards that concept. In terms of cost, I have to figure that out with Steve. It would be using town materials because we have such an excess of mulch following those winter storms. In terms of the area it would take up, I think we'd initially assumed it would be about an acre. But for a 5-foot berm, 10 feet wide, it's about a quarter of an acre. So it's somewhat less than we previously had assumed. So the concept of doing it is both a visual break for the adjacent property, so they're not looking over the town property, also for the mitigation of any noise during construction. So just something I continue to work on. As I get more information from Steve, I will follow back up with that one.
So the fencing is going to go on the boundary lines.
That was the initial concept. We're still exploring that.
I would only support the fencing on the boundary lines. I think you have to be very careful with the doctrine of acquiescence on there if you actually do any type of fencing not on the boundary lines. And if the fencing is going to be 6 foot tall and you're going to put a 5-foot berm behind the 6-foot tall fencing, you're not going to see it anyway. So I would support the fencing on the boundary lines. As far as the $7,500 for the equipment rental, the town staff has time to do it. That's a cost. That's not a problem. We do have contracts for for daily use, which would probably be more. But either way, if that's what's needed to get that installed in an expeditious fashion, I think that's a wise additional cost to that. But to me, the fencing should be on the boundary lines as typically done by municipalities.
Yeah, I just, my only hesitation to that is just the impact to the neighbors who will have gone from looking at a forest to now looking at a fence, and actually having a berm with some low shrub vegetation on is going to be closer to restoring what that initial vista was, as opposed to a fence, which is a very commercial looking structure in a rural location. So if it is a possibility to do that, because I think the berm would also prohibit, other people using, which is the concern of not having the fence on the property line, but it just provides a kind of a better visual barrier.
There's case law out there that recommend not doing that.
Okay.
I support the fence on the boundary line, and then we can do plantings on our side of the fence to give, screening.
There's multiple layers. I think the fence, trees, there's multiple layers. I think we can bring back the neighborliness of that area for the property owners also. But not by not having a fence on the property line, then too, I think you can be running into issues down the road, much further than after any of us are here on the board then too.
Yeah, I go back. I mean, not all town properties have fences on the property lines, right?
Name one. The school, East Hampton High School, just literally put it on property line. They took down stances of bamboo on there. The doctor in acquiescence, you have to be very careful and watch out for that.
Okay, well, we'll continue to review. Arts?
Can we?
Well, yeah, I think that for me, putting fences on property line happens wherever you live in town. That's where contractors put them, when they put them around your backyard and stuff. So one minute there's not a fence and there is a fence, but I think the screening, which seems to be the most important thing, is not whether necessarily the location of the fence. Certainly you can screen a fence. I've done it.
Did you put the screening in front of the fence on the neighbor's
Well,
side or on our side?
I've screened my neighbor's fence on my side.
So
Right, so I put trees down on my side of the fence if I didn't want to look
So
at
I
the
think
fence.
that's kind of the piece I'm just trying to ameliorate, is that we remove the existing screening when we cleared the property.
But it's not a nature preserve. I mean, that property was always going to be redeveloped. There was never a time where this was a nature preserve.
No, but
So you have to have an expectation that.
not by definition, but by conceptually it was a forest.
It was somebody's backyard.
Legally, by definition, it was not.
No, but it was an existing forest that we removed.
It was an undeveloped piece of, actually, at that time, it was a developed piece of property because it was one piece of property.
Right, so the question is the onus on us to provide that screening? Vegetation?
And I would agree that we're going to work towards that. I think it's just the design that you're putting forward is something I disagree with. And my vote, if you're straw polling it now, that you put it on the property line, because there could be legal ramifications down the line if you do differently, and you can research those too, as I have also.
Okay, I'll follow up with the town attorney just on the legal side of that, because it's not.
No, I think that, I understand that fences typically go on property lines. That makes sense. I do think it's important to be neighborly here and hear from them and try to make it, everybody happy. I would ask for legal advice about, the strict nature of, does it have to go on the property line, or are there other options?
We asked the owner of the horse farm which fence she preferred, style of fence, and she selected the style of fence.
Right.
That's great. I haven't been involved in those conversations, so it makes sense.
I was going to say in follow, she didn't know there was possibly an option of a barn. That's the only thing. So when that was a possibility, she's like that.
It was your possibility.
Right, no, just.
Yeah, I mean.
No, as I say, because what I want to do here is restore that vista for the neighbor, because I think that's one of the most tragic things about what we did there is the destruction of that vista. And I think restoring that is a good action as a neighbor. That's just my 2 cents. But again, we'll follow up with the attorney. I haven't had that feedback from the attorney's office, so I will follow up with that. Arts Council Committee will be meeting this month to review an exhibition, possibly a recommendation from the council to exhibit some of Alison Seifer's work, who did the Real Sun posters. She sadly passed away earlier this year, so we'll be having that recommendation coming to the town board. Tick control, as you can say, this has actually been the biggest thing in my inbox in the last few weeks. Absolutely, I mean, dozens of residents reaching out with the tick issue. I just wanted to kind of update the public on where we are with that. Obviously, we did the tick task force presentation to the board previously. The Wildlife Management Committee has picked that up. We've identified deer as the primary reservoir to target the tick population, but the question is how. For posters, the feedback has been from all parties that while they're effective in reducing ticks, most municipalities have discontinued them just due to their costs and the workload involved. There's a huge amount of feed needed to have them be effective. So the option that has kind of more initially been discussed is direct management of the deer population. The three options that the committee has been discussing is sterilization, which is we've tried in the past. It was challenging and it's not really been effectively tested in our areas yet.
The village tribe.
Yeah, the village. Sorry, thank you. Yes, hunting. Both professional and recreational. The guidance from Dr. Campbell is that recreational hunting would not be enough to address this issue. Obviously, hunting, the killing of animals is a motive to many. We have that represented on the committee, and we're trying to be as ethical as we can if we do go down that step. The next step for the committee is to complete a defensible estimate of deer density and distribution within the town. So, in layman's terms, a deer count. The committee has said that, like, look, we need to have a number of estimated deer we have in the town to suggest a number that would be hunted or removed from the existing population. The USDA has estimates that a healthy environment has up to 20 deer per acre. So we're talking about the town 74 acres, it would be around 1,500 deer.
Do you still have a representative from the DEC on that?
We do, yes. Leslie Lupo is on the committee with that. She's actually the one who mentioned the 4 posters being removed.
Because I know when I was on liaison to the committee in the past, the DEC said there's actually no way to do deer counting.
So they were on the meeting previously. We actually got guidance from New York State Parks. Tim Watson's on that committee. They recently completed a deer count protocol, which is something we're looking to introduce here with that same methodology. So they've used it in their parks as a method of ascertaining like what the deer.
And do they have like a success?
They have had success with it, yes.
I'd love to see it.
So yeah, so I will share that with you. The committee is reviewing that. So the question here is we obviously had 40,000 in the 2026 budget for this project. How do we use that? So I do have a meeting with planning. Obviously they're doing the inventory of natural resources. The question is do we include deer in that? And could we potentially put the cost of a deer count under that? And what I would like to propose is that
It's a grant, so I don't think you can, because that's not how we applied for the grant.
You can't add to grants like that.
Okay. So with the 40,000, part of me would actually like to take some direct action in addressing the tick population this year and move funds next year to do a count. What I'm looking to discuss with the committee this week is the concept of tick tubes. While they don't address all tick, they address ticks on small mammals. We could potentially place them in highly trafficked areas, some of the paths and the parks we know the public use, and they would just target the ticks in those smaller areas, and actually start the deer count next year. I mean, deer counts, the optimal time of year to do them is September, October, per the USDA and state parks. So we could potentially do them this year, but the cost, if we do it townwide, would be more than the 40,000. We are examining, we'll make a recommendation to the year. Do we look at some specific targeted areas to extrapolate an estimate? Of ticks? Of deer. So we've done 2 prior estimates of deer populations in 2008 and 2013. They were massively different. One came in about 800, one came in at 3,000.
The one in 2013
was very low.
It was because then they do flyovers and they used infrared and they discovered that deer were like hiding in bushes and didn't get counted, and it was a disaster.
Yes, correct. So that's why we're looking for the New York State methodology. But we're looking to come to agreement on that as a committee. We'll make a recommendation to the board following that meeting this month.
So I have a question, because the Wildlife Committee was going to make a presentation 2 months ago and it got punted. So when are you folks looking to
So we did not meet last month. We're meeting this month to present next month.
So you want to present in August?
Correct. YMCA, pickleball courts. The project has ZBA approval from the village. LKMA will be putting them out to bid shortly. Once its contract is awarded, LKMA will submit the application for the building permit. And those are all my updates.
Great, thank you, Tom.
The Montauk CSC met last night, and we had a nice discussion just about the summer season. Then too, there's a discussion about the change of the fireworks to the location, which was over at Gosman's, and some of the traffic patterns that are out of there. Overall, most people are all very happy with it. Personally, I did go to the fireworks, sat on the beach just north of Gosman's, then had a very nice time with my family. And I'm very happy for the Montauk Chamber to start the fireworks early, knowing the impending storms that were incoming. I think that happened around the region for the most part also then too. So it was a nice time had by all. And again, there's other things that we had in a question and answer from the CAC that I'll work through some of these answers for the people this week. Montauk litter patrols and beach sweeping, lo and behold, talking with Steve O'Brien, they continued through even on Sunday of this week, this past weekend. And too, the beaches had a tremendous amount of litter that were picked up, refuse, which was in the cans, but litter was down overall. And we think some of that was probably because of the change of the location of the fireworks on there. And that happened there. The Army Corps of Engineers is completing their overpasses this week per our contact there. They will be completing that and demobilizing, they say, by this Thursday on there also. As far as a couple projects that are still ongoing, then too, the town completed some sidewalk projects in downtown Montauk. They were completed by Friday. I thank for all the residents for any inconveniences they might have had, but again, it was a lot of brick over concrete, and we recently only had a responsive concrete provider and sidewalk provider. The Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee met 2 weeks ago, and they talked about discussions about having about priority water bodies and funding for septic upgrades. There's going to be some recommendations coming to the board about funding and about travel times. We also, Councilmember Calder-Piedmont, thank you very much, Ian, for coming, and we discussed a road runoff in multiple different locations on there, if it was appropriate for grant funding or not, and too, as we understand that is, gosh, this is like Monday. Sorry. So we have some recommendations that would be coming from those committees there too. You'll also see a resolution on today for a transfer of, I think, nearly $400,000, a little over that in funding. That's for water quality projects that were that had extensions put to them. So that will be coming in today. Two last things on here. Since the last time we met, as far as a work session on there, the bingo card from 2 weeks ago was a dead 40-ton whale that landed at Dish Plains Beach in a very difficult location. There is individuals within that we work with within the town, but also outside the town that need recognition on that. The first one is Kim Shaw and Tim Treadwell from the town of East Hampton, and everyone that was on the Marine Patrol there. They helped out tremendously in the coordination efforts. Also, the town lifeguards in that area for running the drones. Also, I want to thank also Rob DiGiovini, excuse me for pronouncing it incorrectly, and Ken Durham from the Atlantic Marine Conservation AMCs for their necropsies. There was a collaborative effort and coordination effort with the members from the DEC, from the governor's office, and specifically also want to thank the Marine Resources Director Martin Gary for being on the phone with us, and also from NOAA. We had individuals from NOAA. That effort led to an action plan that was followed through and completed, and the beach was reopened within 48 hours then too. So to all involved, I want to thank their efforts. Sanitation, yeah. Thank you so very much. Exactly. Yeah. Sanitation for Craig Fick and them, and Steve Lynch for their assistance on there then too. There was a lot to offer there, and sorry if I missed anyone there. Lastly, I think one of the things I would like to try to bring up in the presentation was maybe bring Johnny Ryan in again for a short presentation. Sure. He gave me some of the number. It was a very hot weekend, everyone. Yeah. Okay. The beaches in Montauk at Ditch, they were like cordwood on the beaches. But overall, there were a lot of saves in the rips off of Montauk then too. I'll get those numbers later on. But the one place for people to get out of the heat, then too, you had to be on the ocean. It had to be a 15-degree difference between the ocean beach and back by Springs by us. Mm-hmm. Then too, it was stifling heat then too. Overall, the town of East Hampton's water safety programs are in high effect right now. There's nearly 616 unique individuals participating in the town's programs, and the junior program. Right now, for the Amagansett juniors is 286, Amagansett Nippers another 101. So we have nearly 400 people in our junior programs right now. The one program that Johnny wants to talk about again would be the Beach Guardians, which is adult lifeguarding programs. And just over this past weekend, there were over 50 people that participated in them too. Again, those go on the mornings on Saturday and Sunday, and they're for adults, 20 and older, old like me, like 50. And that actually would want to learn about riptides and ocean conditions and lifeguarding effects then too. So at 660 individuals, I think our programs are alive, and that's probably why we have good our lifeguard program is at such a high quality of anywhere in America overall. I think that would be a nice recognition there, but also to show some of these programs during the season that individuals that come down the beach and still participate and join in. Overall, that's what I have in my laser.
Yeah, I mean, last summer, I believe we had some of the lifeguards, junior lifeguards come in. So
Sure.
maybe we can extend that to Johnny.
I'll talk to Johnny, see his schedule then
that'd
too.
be
Thank you.
Kate?
Yes. Jason, can you queue up the Litter Action Committee's new campaign?
Yes, right away.
Thanks. Oh, Matt.
I mean, hello, I am Sam. You know, I always see these things that people drop, and I don't like how they ruin the beauty around it. I mean, it wasn't that hard. Why don't people do this instead of ruining the beauty outside? You can also do this. It is very easy. And one last thing. Thank you!
As you see, the new Litter Action Committee's newest volunteer is Sam the Shepherd. The Litter Action Committee has produced a number of videos. I'll be showing them weekly. They're also redesigned their website on the town's, their webpage on the town's website that have all these videos on it, and invite you to subscribe to the Town of East Hampton on YouTube so you can get Sam's latest. And although Sam is a humorous way to remind us that everyone should be doing their part, I would like to remind everybody about the seriousness of litter and people throwing their food wrappers and stuff out of their cars or leaving it on the beaches or bringing their household garbage to town receptacles and leaving it there. And I just know we all can do much better. This is, although the outreach is humorous, the issue is not. And it really costs us in so many ways. It costs us as we lose our visual beauty to litter. And when you think about that, it is Sam's right. It's very easy to correct. Just don't throw it out. Bring it home with you, throw it out. Respect our beauty, respect our wildlife, which also is a consequence of litter, and also the impact to all of us as town residents, as taxpayers, when we have to send town resources out to pick them up. So please think about what your impact is in that really quick motion and take your litter home with you. And I thank the committee for all their work on this. There's also new signs up at the recycling centers reminding you to please cover your any outdoor pickup truck. It must be covered. Anything that you put in the back of any type of truck not only has to be secured, but also covered now. This is, we know from the volunteer litter committee pickups that this is a really big source of litter by our recycling centers, as we could see household trash flying off the back of the trucks. I'll have some photos of that next week for you, but please just be conscious of your litter. Next, I met with Deckard Industries, which will be doing our rentalscape, which will be monitoring our short-term rental platforms for compliance to our rental registry code. It was a really interesting meeting. We're going to come forward with the town presentation right now. Staff is working on uploading our records into Rentalscape, the platform, and then we'll do a kickoff of the platform. And I think everyone's going to be a little surprised at the numbers of revenue that's happening in the town. They were excellent, and their training with staff is in depth, so I'm looking forward to getting it online no later than August 1st.
So would the presentation happen in July, or would it happen?
First week in August when it's up. I would like to see the dashboard up so people can see how we're using it. Yesterday, the Nitrogen Smart Communities had their kickoff meeting, and their goals and next steps were announced, and they'll be coming forward to present to us as well. The Montauk Grant, the SPCC, the first stakeholders meeting will be announced this month. And the Wayne-Scott CAC meets in the chapel in person at 9 a.m. at the Wayne-Scott Chapel on Main Street on Saturday at 9 a.m. I also would like to take this opportunity to thank one of our town employees. We have so many great employees in the town that go above and beyond every day to help out members of our community. And today I'd like to highlight one of them as a representative of what folks experience when they come into town hall. Last Wednesday, we had some folks come in that had come from quite a distance. They were quite elderly. We were in the middle of that terrible heat storm, and they came in for needing something from the town clerk's office, which also helped them out. As I said, they were over 80, and by the time they got here from out of state, they were really struggling with the heat. It got to the point where one of the folks needed medical attention. Christina Arkinson, who's a paralegal in our town attorney's office, had walked outside. The folks were at the picnic bench. They didn't make it farther than that. Kathy, you were there. But Christina, when the ambulance came to take one of them to the emergency room because they really were in quite serious distress, Christina didn't go home for the evening last Wednesday. She went to the emergency room with these folks, and she stayed there. She got home at about 10:30 at night. She stayed with them for the entire evening just to make sure they were okay. They were a little lost, a little confused, and her help was invaluable to them. So I wrote to her on Monday, and this is what got me the most, I think. And she wrote back. I wanted to follow up on how late she stayed and just thank her for what she did. And she wrote back to me and she said, "Oh yes, I got home at 10:30 p.m. I think that I gained more from Ms. Jackie than I could have given her. Sometimes angel wings are hidden." And that really moved me, that's how Christina looked at being delayed from going home from 5 o'clock to 10:30 at night to help out total strangers that just she happened upon in town hall. And I really want to acknowledge Christina's outlook on helping folks and thank her for what she did. And as I said, wrote back to Christina, sometimes angel wings are in plain sight as well. And I just want to thank her for being so kind to people in today's world when we're all so busy. So that's the end of my report.
Thanks, Kate.
I thought Sam was going to be a hard act to follow, but Christina makes it makes it more difficult.
Motion to close.
Just a very brief report. The Ag Advisory Committee meeting that was scheduled for Thursday is canceled. The farmers are in a very busy season. Still working through code revisions that were presented to us before. Been working with Tina Lagaran as well as Brittany Toledano, and more recently Dennis Brown, who has a lot of experience in this realm when he worked for Suffolk County, has joined in on some revisions. We're waiting for the committee to be able to review some preliminary, and I look forward to bringing that back to the board when there's more to share. And that's all I have.
Great, thanks, Ian. I wanted to share East Hampton Town Police Department, their weekend activity. It was an extremely taxing weekend. PD ran call to call all weekend. Dispatch had a tremendous volume of incoming calls. There were 373 calls for service, 81 car stops, 41 traffic tickets issued, 9 total arrests. There were 22 residential noise complaints, 5 commercial noise complaints, but they were all unfounded. 5 accidents, 26 aided cases, and with the storms, 19 instances where there were down wires or poles or trees down. They also handled special events. We had the Devon's fireworks that were on Friday night that was conducted without incident. Turnout was larger than last year. The Montauk fireworks, David mentioned, that went off without incident on the north side. And they started the display early to get it over with before the thunderstorms rolled in. That went well. In fact, there was a large turnout with a lot of traffic on both Westlake and Eastlake, but it was manageable. And the reports were it was actually easier to disperse the traffic than when it was on the Ocean Beach. And then Springs Farmers Market, as Ian has been, advocating, there's not a lot of parking up there. There was also the quick silver sale at the Springs Presbyterian Church. We had to assign a TCO there for several hours. So, there was, tight parking along Springs Fireplace, but, that no complaints and no issues there. So,
So would you just say the time frame? Because when you're saying this is the numbers, it's from Friday afternoon till Monday, 6 a.m.
Right.
So we're
Yeah, for
talking
the
about not even 72
Yeah, and I call it the company car. I, as supervisor, get a town vehicle with the police radio in there, and literally it was nonstop. The amount of going back and forth, and some of it was pretty scary. Like fireworks went off and somebody got a firework in their face on Cranberry Hole Road was one of the calls, and then they were concerned about a brush fire from fireworks. I mean, there were, obviously, a lot of illegal fireworks going on, and those are more challenging to catch up to because folks disperse quickly, but you can get injured. So we also saw, and we say this every year, probably we experience some of the heaviest traffic volume we've ever witnessed. So, hats off to town staff there. East Hampton Sag Harbor CAC met last night. We talked old business, roosters. There are some folks on the committee that would like to see us have something in the town code. So they're forming a subcommittee, and they're going to be doing some research and coming back with some recommendations. Under new business, we talked about Floyd Street. The problem is folks know half of it is two-way and the other half is one-way off of Springs Fireplace Road. Unfortunately, though, with a lot of folks here from out of town and using Waves or Google or Apple Maps, they don't recognize that it's a one-way street in that one segment. So we're seeing folks, traveling that road going the wrong way. So we've had directed enforcement there in the past, and I'm just going to reach out to the chief and the captain to see if I can get that on the list again. We also had the CAC was unanimous in asking the town to pursue a local law that would require rain sensors on irrigation, starting with, new builds, and also legislating the even odd watering. Southold passed a local law last July requiring rain sensors on their irrigation, and then they gave a time period for older irrigation systems to come online. I don't know if this is something that the Sustainability Committee is talking about.
Yes, it is. They're talking about a number, considering, we're in a drought situation again, even with the heavy rains, that doesn't take it away.
Right.
And it's regionally, so it's pressure regionally on water. But also, this is not the first year we have a drought now. We're seeing a pattern of summer drought. So we're seeing a change in the temperatures over the summer and the ability to replenish our aquifers. So the Sustainability Committee is also working with a recommendation for rain sensors, which is common sense. There's no need to irrigate while it's raining, and also for odd even days as well. And as we move into the future, I think this is going to just be spreading across all municipalities because we can do better.
And then we just talked about traffic and how, because folks were saying everywhere they went, people were complaining about the traffic, and how do we work towards making that better. I mean, we are going to go back for the East Hampton, CAC is going to go back and revisit the Hamlet studies to see what was recommended there and what, haven't we implemented yet. Some of it, unfortunately, is county roads, and we're not getting the traffic circle like we had lobbied for at the intersection of North Main, Springs Fireplace Road, and 3 Mile Harbor. But are there other areas where we can, try to help mitigate traffic? I explained how we had worked with Assemblyman Fred Thiel at the time, and now with Tommy John Schiavone, to get into the capital plan funding for the MTA to help, because trains have to play a part in this. Number of folks didn't realize that the Suffolk County bus system was on demand. So there's, some education we could do, how we have the Hampton Hopper in Montauk to help alleviate traffic when school gets out up until Labor Day weekend. So, but it's a global, more global issue. The two other things I wanted to just touch base on. One is just an update on the ongoing water contamination issue. As we speak, staff from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and Suffolk County Department of Health Services are conducting a site visit at the battery storage site. The town remains in close contact with both agencies, as well as the Suffolk County Water Authority, and we are all working together to determine the true source of this contamination. We know how important it is for residents to have clear answers, and we share that urgency. DEC and Suffolk County have made clear to us that this is their #1 priority, and we will continue to push for a thorough, science-based investigation until we know exactly what happened and what needs to be done next. We will keep the public updated as more information becomes available. And then lastly, I just want to take a moment to thank our town staff for the way they handled a very busy and challenging 4th of July weekend. Between the extreme heat, multiple storms, extended beach hours, heavy traffic, public safety needs, and everything that comes with a holiday weekend in East Hampton, our employees stepped up in a very real way. Our lifeguards, beach staff, Marine Patrol, Police Department, dispatchers, ordinance enforcement, fire marshals, Highway Department, Parks, Buildings and Grounds, emergency management staff, and so many others worked long hours and kept the focus on keeping people safe. We're all very grateful to every town employee who worked through this weekend. We ask a lot of our staff during the summer, and once again, they delivered for our community. So I'm going to leave it there, and let's move on to resolutions.
It's my pleasure to offer Resolution 2026-1110. This is to retain historical preservation consultant Robert Hefner for the Edwards House restoration, which is at 127 Squaw Road in Springs. And this is from a proposal dated June 25th, 2026, not to exceed $30,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. 2026-1111 is budget modification for water quality. This is for water quality projects for 2026. We're decreasing the budget line for septic system rebate program in the amount of $416,808 and increasing the line for water quality improvement grants in the same amount.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have Resolution 26-1112. It's amend UR map MN4 URP 55 subdivide lot. The town board held a public hearing on June 18th for a proposal for a modification of the aforementioned urban renewal plan to divide urban renewal parcel number 55 into 2 residential lots. The town's consulting engineer reviewed the proposal and had no objections. The proposed modification to the urban renewal plan is an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA, and the town planning board issued a negative declaration on February 25th, 2026. The town planning board adopted a resolution to approve the subdivision on April 22nd, 2026, with the condition of approval that the town board agree to modify the urban renewal map, whereas the town board finds the proposed modification to be reasonable, appropriate, and in keeping with the urban renewal plans in which it is located. Be it resolved that the town board hereby approves the proposed modification listed as follows.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 1113 is to accept a grant of scenic and conservation easement at 240 Westlake Drive in Montauk. This public hearing was also held on June 18th. The grantor is David Welsh and Lisa Welsh. The location, as I said, is 240 Westlake Drive in Montauk. The reviewing agency is the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 1114 is to accept security and undertaking from Joseph Messina for urban renewal parcel 51 in SP-1-2. Pursuant to urban renewal laws, the town board has adopted plans, development of old filed maps. This is for the construction of roads and drainage. Resolved that the undertaking, together with the following security, are accepted by the town. The applicant is Joseph Messina at 61 Shore Road in Southampton. The parcel is at 84 Fort Pond Boulevard, East Hampton, and the amount of the security is $20,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have Resolution 2026-1115, and this authorizes the town of East Hampton to renew a cable franchise agreement with Cablevision Systems East Hampton Corp. to operate a cable system in the town of East Hampton.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
1116 is to authorize the use of the town credit card for New York State Easy Pass application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have 2026-1117. This is approval of a seasonal permit for the Montauk Yacht Club, private surf lessons, special event permit 2026. This is going to take place on Peak Beach, east of Atlantic Drive in Amagansett, and hours of operation are 12:30 p.m. to 4:30. That should be p.m. if we could make that amendment. Monday through Friday only, maximum of 3 students and 2 instructors in the water at any one time.
Second.
Can we have a roll call?
Oh, can we have a discussion, first of all? So, having served on the special event committee for 10 years, we were very deliberate when we gave out, special event permits for beaches and concerned about commercial activity, but also balancing that with the community's enjoyment. And we made a decision when I was on that committee that at road end beaches like Beach Lane and Nap Peak, we would allow beach surf lessons in the morning, but then they would wrap up and not have lessons in the afternoon so that the public could have the beach to enjoy. So I just want to say, so I'm not supportive of having surf lessons from 12:30 to 4:30 when people, there's probably more people on the beach at that time of day, we felt, in the summer than in the mornings, and that's why we allowed the surfing. So I am not supportive of this application, and I'm also surprised that we issued the permit retroactively before we had a town board resolution and vote. We hadn't done that in the past either. We didn't do retroactive resolutions for the most part for something that was a commercial operation on a beach. We waited until the board had a chance to deliberate and vote. So I don't know if anybody else has anything to add, or I'm going to call for a roll call.
Is there another vendor down there also?
Yes, there
Loving
is.
Adventures. I mean, and they're really the larger operator in this location. They have 31 people in the water at any one time. So they operate in the morning only, Monday through Friday. That was one of the considerations the committee had, which is like, look, to the point, this is a public beach. This is not, they initially asked for weekends as well. We said no as a committee. And, just kind of minimizing operations for those 4 hours in the afternoon. And there'll be no parking permitted. It's by shuttle only. They'll be shuttling people in and out to location.
So I was a no vote on the committee, so I'm just going to be consistent here and vote no. Is this, Tom, we spoke about this.
So why are there concerns why they wouldn't be just done in the morning here?
Because Loving Adventures there, it's just having that many people in the water. You then have up to 36 people in the water versus the 31.
And how is it done in ditch? Is it
ditch? They run all day.
Ditch is, for me, ditch is different. There's more parking available and there's more of an ability to spread out. We give locations. Some are at poles, some are at dirt lot, you know, it's spread out there. But
I think the committee felt with 5 people in the water, this was, and no parking, as a whole, the majority opinion was this is not super intrusive.
To me, the no parking piece is key. There's not enough parking, and it would be a shame to take up the spots, but based on the committee's recommendation,
I will say, though, that the way surf lessons typically work, because these folks are taking lessons, so they're not surfers or advanced surfers. There are times where instruction starts on the beach, they're putting their stuff down, they're spreading out. So for me, many times too, you know, they'll pitch, and I'm not saying they're oversized, but they'll pitch some kind of tents to give people, you know, shade. So I just think that I believe that the practice in the past of only having beaches like Beach Lane Beach and Napeague have it commercialized in the morning, lets folks get their lessons in, and then they're off the beach, and then the public gets to enjoy it. Also, I just want to reiterate, I'm not comfortable that we did this retroactive and that we're issued a permit beginning June 15th before the board had an opportunity to weigh in.
Would this group would they change their location to the morning if it was down in Navajo Lane?
They literally came back with this. They haven't looked at it. Well, they did look at a possible location in Montauk initially, which was strong public feedback. It was kind of adjacent to the Marham location, which is a permit we issued to another operator retroactively. So this location was kind of recommended just because Loving Adventure was there. It's a small operation. Just felt it wouldn't be a huge impact on the public there with 5 people.
I would have to sort of tend to say the mornings are going to be better in that knowing Idra, who is the East Hampton's Residents Association, then too, you know, that group cherishes their beaches and they're comfortable with the morning. I'd probably say it would be best to keep it in the morning also then too. I'm not as super concerned about the retroactive one. I understand in this situation here because it's not a place for discussion on there, but I would rather see this be in the morning or at a different location also.
So let's do a roll call, because right now before us is the hours of operation are 12:30 to 4:30 at Napeague.
So there's Navajo Lane there too, Tom, which is across from Cyril's on there. That's got public parking also. It's actually got more public parking than this location.
Okay.
As a potential another location, or if they want to do in the morning, it'd be more ample to do in the morning.
Yeah, this location, as I understand, was Senior Hub Master Treadwell was recommended this one just because they already have people going into that area to ensure it's being operated. But I can bring that back to committee, certainly.
Michael, if you could do a roll call, please.
Councilmember Flight.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Lease.
Nay.
Councilmember Rogers.
Nay.
Councilmember Calder-Piedmont.
Aye.
Supervisor Burke Gonzalez.
Nay.
Okay. Next, I have application that a resolution that I'm sponsoring. It's 2026-1118. It's Pop-Up Workout LLC denial of event of permits for fitness classes. Whereas Pop-Up Workout LLC has applied to the Special Events Committee to hold fitness classes at 146 Montauk Highway, Amagansett. Whereas the Special Events Permit Committee granted the application for June 28th and July 5th, and whereas pursuant to Section 155-5C of the East Hampton Town Code, the town board may deny an application for a permit wherein the town board may consider inter alia, 1, whether the proposed assembly would unduly burden the community or the resources of the town, and 2, the number of applications submitted for a particular property. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to Section 151-5C of the East Hampton Town Code, the town board hereby denies any further permits to the Pop-Up Workout LLC for fitness classes at 146 Montauk Highway, Amagansett, New York, for the remainder of the 2026 as the town board believes the proposed actions unduly burden the community and that the property's use for this repetitive purposes exceeds what would be classified as a special event.
Second.
Move for comment. So we discussed this, again, Special Events Committee. There was a vote with the committee to approve this application. The concerns raised, there was one complaint by one resident. The chief also had concerns about the charging of events here. The committee as a whole felt that the way forward with this was to allow for this on a weekly basis. If we do not conceive complaints, then continue to allow it to operate. It is a private property, Amagansett Square, so denying operations on their green for the workout was something that the committee felt was, punitive without strong justification. So I'm supportive of them being allowed to continue the operations.
So again, I was a no vote on this on the committee because this is the only event that happens there that there's a charge, a hefty charge for the services that are happening. All the other events that happen on the green are open to the public and free. It's not, there's not a, this is not a store in the green that is just moving parts of their business outside to the green. There's a structure involved, and for me, this was a no on the committee.
So we also did receive a complaint today.
During our meeting.
And I think this is an industry that I know well of. To me, is taking away from brick and mortar, and I think we're seeing more of these also. I have another one that just came in from another special event that came in, and where we should be supporting the brick and mortar businesses that are paying into our tax base, employing people out here right now. So this to me ends up looking like a runaround that instead of actually going through the process of becoming an exercise studio, which is within what the town code is also then too. So I'm supportive of this because once or twice, maybe, particularly if it's for a not-for-profit, particularly a local not-for-profit, this seems like it's more of a business entity on here right now.
I would just caution, I mean, like coming from a retail background, I totally understand those concerns as someone who pays taxes on bricks and mortar. But, you have art fairs on the green, you have craft fairs at Third House, which are not craft, they're just regular retail. I think if we're going down this path, we need to be consistent for all businesses are affected. To me, this is private property. Do we, yes, I understand that there's a new use coming in here, but I think it's a challenging path to go down. And I believe, Jake, we had some discussion from legal as to, what are we denying this under?
And it's completely and utterly shown here. It's a burden on the community, and it exceeds the number of times something should be done at the square. This is no longer a special event. It is neither special nor an event. This is 6 times they're trying to do it.
So is that the cutoff point for events now, 6?
No, it's like the determination, you know it when you see it. We see it here, 6 times.
But on what justification? There's been one complaint.
6 times. That's beyond the scope of what should be done.
Yeah, and I think when you read the complaint that came in today, you'll understand from the business owner's aspect of it then too, why this, flies in the face of that industry on there that, it's tough enough to run a business. And you've stated other ones. I got one before the holiday. I'll send it around to the board members also. You mentioned, is this the path you want to start going down? To me, yes, it is. Because I have to, I'm a brick and mortar business. You are too. Ian, there's a lot of us here. And we are here 365, 24/7, 52, whatever you want to do on it. We're here doing it. I'm very challenged not to try to listen and to support those that are going to be trying to do something year round for the community in a way that's legal also. And so it's, in so much ways, this is taking dinner off someone's, dinner table for their family members that are in the same industry on there. And it's the same in so much ways also at the hotels. Hotels, there's a zoning board determination in which you could only have a fitness class out of a hotel for guests of that hotel. And now you're seeing hotels offering it to anyone and charging them, that is against what a legal determination was. Knowing this industry on here, at some point, yeah, this is a road I'd like to go down. I read that email that came in, but then this way I would support this resolution here.
So let's call for a roll call, please.
Councilmember Flight,
Nay.
Deputy Supervisor Lease,
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers,
Aye.
Councilmember Calder Piedmont.
You know, I'm going to abstain just because I've not seen the complaints that just came in. This is the first I'm hearing of this whole issue. I understand the concerns totally, but I feel like I need to know more information before I vote to deny the permit.
Supervisor Burke Gonzalez.
Aye. Resolution 2026-1119, it's a resolution authorizing the commencement of legal action against owners of the ranch at 8 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk.
Second.
Move for comment. Again, I just want to have slight issues with, this is a public work of art. We don't have a lot of guidance as to like, when are we restricting art being displayed? I appreciate that this is an exceptionally large piece, but to deny people the ability to exhibit art is not something I personally support.
Jake, you want to weigh in?
By definition, this is a structure. They're welding large pieces of metal together. It needs to go through the building department for applicable safety standard checks. If we don't take action, then we are compromising the safety of the residents.
There's no public access here, correct? It's private property.
I don't know. Still, same thing with your house. Your house has to meet the code. If it doesn't, then you are compromising the safety of anybody who goes in it.
So if I display art in my backyard that's welded together, is that illegal?
If it's a structure, then yes, and you don't have the building permit. It's not a matter of what is being displayed, it is a matter of how it is being displayed. You need to go through the proper channels and make sure it's legal.
There also might be an issue of where it's being displayed on this property.
Yes, that's an issue as well, because it could be within one of the easements, which does not allow it to be there.
To the roll call.
And this doesn't mean we're automatically going to court. This is,
It's a tool.
It's a tool. Hopefully we'll start with a conversation and get compliance. So you want a roll call?
Councilmember Flight,
Nay.
Deputy Supervisor Lease,
Aye.
Councilmember Rogers,
Aye.
Councilmember Calder Piedmont,
Aye.
Supervisor Burke Gonzalez.
Aye. Resolution 1120 is the East Hampton Commuter Connection Shuttle, Hampton Hopper LLC. They had to put on extra service for the US Open, and we need to compensate them for it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's what I've got for resolutions. I just added a topic, so.
I'd like to make a resolution. I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session for CPF, real estate, advice of counsel, personnel, and litigation.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and thank you, LTV.